Hello, everybody. It's Jay with Guilty of Crime, and I'm back. I got the dog in the background there, and just getting ready for the next one, which is now we're on Jeffrey Dahmer. So this is what I started the channel with was top 10 serial killers that are the most interesting in the U.S. So I wanted to bring those to first my friends. A lot of people don't actually know, which is interesting. They don't know about the serial killers, and this one is Jeffrey Dahmer, which was predominantly in the 80s, and then very early 1991 it came to an end. So we'll get into that and do a summary. But yeah, so we'll do a summary, we'll do a timeline, we'll do all that, and then the puppies in the background are actually sleepy now. We are playing in between my the 4:30 that ended in the 6 o'clock. So yeah, now they're tired. Kind of like me, but I really would like doing this, and I really want to make my content, and I like Friday nights. I love actually Friday nights, so that's my late night to stay up. But yeah, now we're on Jeffrey Dahmer, which is the number 3 most interesting serial killer in the U.S. And so we did the first one. We did Ted Bundy, number 1. We did Eileen Wuornos, number 2. And now we're on number 3, Jeffrey Dahmer. And the people that I know that are here probably already know about him. You guys probably seen a lot of clips that maybe you didn't, because I go back and I watch the old 1980s clips, and yeah, I just enjoy watching that stuff and then sharing it and telling the story. So we're gonna tell the story, and I'm gonna tell the story, and you'll comment, and we'll do some clips, and yeah, it will be a good Friday night here of Serial Killer Friday, which I don't know how many more serial killers we have, but after I do 10 of them, then we can move on to other serial killers, which would be really cool because I have lots of stories to tell, and they're not U.S. serial killers, so I think everybody would be really interested in the other serial killers that I have to talk about, because I watch a lot of documentaries, and a lot of them they have subtitles. They're not even in English. So I sit there and I watch them, and I think, man, I wonder who would sit there and watch a serial killer documentary that's not even in English. Well, people that are watching Netflix probably do. Last weekend I watched the Raincoat Killer on Netflix, and the Raincoat Killer was just like this crazy. I believe it was it Vietnam? Was he Vietnamese? I can't remember, but I'm gonna have to do the Raincoat Killer now. It's crazy. If any of you have Netflix and you're watching it, and you can watch the ones that aren't in English but they're voiceovers, or maybe not voiceovers where you're just reading them, definitely watch the Raincoat Killer. Oh my god, it's just so crazy what he's doing. He's killing prostitutes, and he does it in his bathroom. So no, I'm not talking about Jeffrey Dahmer right now. I'm talking about the Raincoat Killer, but we are going to get into Jeffrey Dahmer right now. I guess I'm talking about other serial killers that I'm going to go ahead and dive in on. We're going to try to do Serial Killer Friday, which would be really cool. So, hello, Sadie's mama. I got on here a few minutes late, and I'm glad that I got to see that Carly earlier. She came on here a while ago, and Sadie's mama, thank you. I'm not sure, Carly, if you're still on here, but we're going to get into the summary of Jeffrey Dahmer, and we'll do some clips, and you guys will probably remember stuff, have some input, things like that. So, volume's on. Oh, good. Wash away. Just listen to me talk about this. I've got some new things about Jeffrey Dahmer that most people don't particularly know. They think one thing, or the media calls him one thing, and really in actuality he's like three other things. And then if you actually know about him and his life story and you go backwards, then you'll hear even more things about him. So I'm sure people that know about Jeffrey Dahmer know the story of him for the most part. But when you start to delve deeper and you watch 15 different documentaries on him, then you hear bits and pieces of things that you had no idea. And I'm trying to think of a way to word them here on YouTube that I don't get my video portions of it banned or them taking it down. Now, that's leading me to tell you about the other two serial killers that I talked about here. So, very first serial killer video that I did was Ted Bundy, and I got a warning about it. So, got a warning about that one. Then I went off to do Justin Moan, The Head in the Pot, and that one got partially banned. The first video got taken down all the way of Justin Moan. They completely took it down, and I had to redo it. And then I went on to do number 2 serial killer, Aileen Wuornos, and a big chunk of it got banned from 2 other countries, Australia, and I can't remember the other one, but it was showing in 4 countries and they took it down in 2. So I'm going to really try to get this out without part of it getting banned. That would be really nice, because I probably won't redo this. It's going to be a bit of a long one, and yeah, I've done some summary research and put that together with timelines and victims, so I definitely won't want to go over that again. Let's pull up the summary, and I'll start to tell you about Jeffrey Dahmer. I'll do an overview, and yeah, let's pull this up, and we'll go with the summary. Let me see if I can get this up here. I don't know why it's not on here, but I'm going to try to pull it up. Good. Yeah, you can, what are you going to mod for? That's pretty cool. That's really cool when I hear that people are modding, and I always kind of wonder what it is that they are modding. So if you want to tell me about that when you're not doing your dishes, that would be cool. Let me get these up here. Yeah, so I'm trying to pull up my summary right now, and let's see if I can get this up. I'm not sure why it's not pulling up, but I really want to share it. So I don't want to share my entire, let's see, a slide. I want to share a slide, and let's see if I can pull these up. I want to upload a file, but I want to do a PDF, and do I want to upload it? Let's see what options they give me. So we are going to do it this way, and I'm still learning. So with this first one, cool, I got the summary. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and this is cool. I like doing it this way. I like being able to show an overview so you can visualize it, and we can talk about it, and then you can see the pictures. That's kind of always going to be my thing. Let's save this as yeah, sometimes when you're doing something, when something like this new, you're like, whoa, how the heck do I how do I do this? And then you got to figure it out, but you're on a live. So I'm on a live right now, not on a live. but no pun intended. I'm on a live and I'm trying to figure out how to share this. And oh, cool. Oh, Greeno. I love True Crime Investigates. I love his personality and the channel. The mods, I forgot you're a mod. All the mods are really cool and super friendly over there. I love it. That's awesome. So, all right, we're going to do the summary right now and let you wash dishes there. I love listening to stuff while I'm doing chores also. So we're going to get into the summary. You can see that I have a big giant summary that I put together for you. And it's number 3, Jeffrey Dahmer. You can see the pictures, a man of many faces, and I will zoom in on that and start reading for you my summary that I put together. So let's get this going and make this smaller. I hope I do it right. Let's see. I hope I pull this up right and I'm able to do it. I am not actually sure if I'm pulling it up right, but let's see. So, okay, so this is really small, and I'm not sure I'd bring it up, but I'm going to go ahead and read the summary because I don't think that you really need to see those words like that when I'm reading it to you. All right, let's go. Summary. So, Jeffrey Dahmer is known as the Milwaukee Cannibal or the Milwaukee Monster. Everybody pretty much knows Jeffrey Dahmer as a cannibal. When you think about him, you think about, oh, he ate his victims. And he's definitely got a lot more going on than that. I think the media named him that and it kind of stuck. But I'm going to tell you a lot more about him that you might not have known if you didn't delve really deep into it. So, Jeffrey Dahmer is known as the Milwaukee Cannibal or the Milwaukee Monster. He was an American serial killer, because we're doing American serial killing, and a sex offender who gained notoriety for his heinous crimes in the late 20th century, which we're in now, but we're talking, 1980. You can see here when we get further down, 1980s, and stopped in 1991. So he was born on May 20th, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Dahmer committed his crimes or his murders between 1978 and 1991. His modus operandi involved luring young men, and they were young, trust me, most of them were really young. He preferred really young ones that he could do anything with, and lure them to his home, drug them, strangle them, sexually assault them, or SA. Afterwards, he would dismember their bodies, often engaging in acts of necrophilia and cannibalism. I would say necrophilia was probably even more than the cannibalism. They picked up on cannibalism because when they went to the apartment later on, they find bits of things in the refrigerator, body parts, heads, etc. So cannibalism kind of stuck, and that's what they ended up naming him as was a cannibal. All right, so his acts of necrophilia, cannibalism, murder, drugging, essaying were eventually discovered in 1991 when his intended victim, now this is a very popular guy that a lot of you will probably know if you know the story. He ended up escaping from Dahmer's apartment, and he led the police right to him. Now, this apartment was already being looked at by his neighbors, but not necessarily for those type of crimes at all. They had a really bad smell in the apartment, and it was smelling up the entire complex because the bodies were just piling up in there and piling up. And of course, they were piling up and then they were decomposing. So he's living with these bodies. He's got a couple in his bedroom, parts in the bath, some in the fridge, some in the freezer. One's just rotting inside of these blue barrels with acid in them, trying to dissolve them. So, yeah, this is the summary of him. So we'll go back and we'll move around, but this is what happened in his apartment. And we'll see that later when everything gets discovered. The famous scene of them bringing out the blue barrels. All right, let's keep going. I would check my let me check my comments here, make sure I'm Sadie's mama. And on the next one, I'll make sure I bring it up so you can see it a little better. But this time I wasn't able to. It says browsers blocked your screen. Okay, well, that's okay. If it did, then we're going to get through it and then we'll switch it out. So let's continue reading it and then we'll figure this out. You'll figure it out while I'm on here. All right, let's get this out of my way. I had this all worked out last time, and this time it's a little bit different. So I wish I knew how to zoom in on this a little better. I'm going to get to the second portion of it, but I think I'm going to take this one down. I'm going to remove this, and I'll keep talking about Jeffrey Dahmer and the things that they found. I know, Sadie's mama, you're like the biggest true crime junkie that I know. And when I say true crime, you literally know everything I feel about it. Like you watch everything and you correct me on the DNA. Not that you correct me, but it's a good correction. You tell me about the terminology. I feel like you're watching court TV all the time and you just know this stuff. So it's really freaking cool how you are able to do that. So I feel like, wow, at some point when I get the hang of it more, I'd definitely like to have you on here with me going over some cases. I've seen you on Zab's channel before, so I know that you're open to it, and that would be really cool if at some point you come on and go over one of the old school cases with me. All right, so I did a better job of this. I believe I was able to pull this one up, so we're going to share this. Let's take a look how it looks. I really want you guys to see it better. We got it. So this is the first one. All right, we're going to take this down. I'm going to remove it, and we're going to get the summary up there, I promise. I don't want to go over the timeline yet, but I want these guys up there. I probably should have come on a little bit sooner, but I didn't. All right, let's do the summary now. This is great. I got it. I'm getting it. Thank you for being patient with me. Later on, when you hear my videos or see them, you're going to say, oh, what a difference. All right. Why does the timeline keep coming back up? I want the summary. Let's get the summary. Going to get the timeline down. I don't want the timeline. No, Google. No. All right. PDS. Present. Let's get this going. All right, here we are. Now back to the summary. I really wanted you all to see this better. So that's what we're going to do. All right, much better. All right, so we left off on his modus operandi, necrophilia, cannibalism, and of course, murder. In 1992, again, we're doing a murder, so we're going to skip around. This is like those movies that go forward and backwards. In 1992, Dahmer was convicted of 17 murders. Now, remember, he was convicted of them, but it doesn't mean that was the totality of them, nor does it mean that he didn't have some from younger days or things that he didn't talk about or get into. So he was sentenced to 16 life terms in prison. While in prison, if you didn't know, he was attacked and killed by a fellow inmate in 1994. I'm going to talk about this now because the inmate got to him. And I always thought until recently that they got to him by accident. I thought that he accidentally got into general population and that happened. And I always thought, oh, accidentally, right? But actually, it wasn't accident at all. He wanted to go, Jeffrey Dahmer, the man of many faces, wanted to be out in general population. He was really bored because he was in isolation. He was only could come out like 1 hour a day. So he told his lawyer, if I can't get out in general population and interact with these people, then I might as well not be alive. So the lawyer said, man, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it you're not going to make it 6 months if you get out here. And yeah, we'll no, didn't he say nothing to lose one beat them? I'm not sure what the comment is, but so we're going to get the names and everything. We'll talk about that. I think it will come up too. This guy, so he gets out and he's in general population and he's doing his weird stuff, right? So because he was a cannibal and all the other stuff, necrophiliac, and a lot of them were black, which ultimately became a racial situation back then. The gentleman that got out, and I'm going to call him a gentleman, that got out and killed Jeffrey Dahmer, kept seeing him. He saw him at dinner, and he would he would have something like a hot dog and put blood in it and act like it's a finger. So this guy was getting really annoyed. And ultimately, he kept seeing him, working out. He kept seeing him on the yard. And this is now after Dahmer requested to be out with general population. So he gets out general population against the advice of his lawyer, and let's put a name to the face. So let's get the man who killed Dahmer, because for some reason I can't. I know they're going to say it later, but I want to talk about it now. Chris Scarver. So Chris Scarver is really known for this. He killed Dahmer, and because he was haunted by the images of Dahmer, he got a hold of a newspaper back then, and he read about his crimes. And once he saw him out on the yard, sorry about that. My other puppy was in the background crying. He's not a puppy. Anyway, so he got out on the yard, and later I'm going to show a picture of what happened. He actually beat him to death with his weight set. Dahmer didn't even fight. He knew that was coming. So Christopher Scarver. If you look him up, everybody was pretty relieved that day. So that's what happened. Christopher Scarver, had to give you the name because he was attacked, and that ended that. So, all right. Dahmer's case remains one of the most. Let's go. 1992. Okay, we did the convicted. He was attacked and killed by Christopher Scarver Sr. in 1994. Dahmer's case remains one of the most infamous and disturbing examples of serial murder in modern history. It sparks debate about mental illness, which later on he said he felt like he was sick, the criminal justice system, and the nature of evil. Originally, he thought he was evil. He would swear that he was evil, that he couldn't figure himself out. Later, he had multiple interviews with his dad, and he swore that he was sick, so he could be fixed and get the help. But really, sometimes evil is just evil. So, yes, let's keep going on this. I like seeing these pictures here. He looks like a normal kind of good-looking guy for back then. He was a cute little kid at some point, but that cute little kid had a lot of dark in it, which we'll talk about, and I figured I would talk about while we're doing this summary. All right, so let's keep going. And Jeffrey Dahmer, we're going to go back to now when he was this cute, not so cute inside little kid. He would take, okay, so we're going to get to that in a second. He took pictures of his victims before and after their murder, mutilated, had sex with the bodies after death, and before dismembering the victims. After that, he wanted his victims to stay around, so he would keep the body parts by mummifying them, and he would put the parts in the fridge and cook and eat the pieces, hence cannibalism of them, to keep them with him forever. That was his logic to doing the things he did. So this is a story of a man who was very lonely from the age of the time that he could remember being a kid. Although he always denied his homosexuality to himself and the world, he never claimed himself to be that. He had dark thoughts of murder and creating zombie companions so that he would never be alone. Now, this was from way back when when he was a kid, that he always wanted to see somebody be a zombie that would just do and say what he said. He would have a sex partner. They wouldn't say anything. They'd lay with him, watch movies, and that's what he wanted to do. At one point, he had a mannequin, and the mannequin he stole from a clothing store, and he brought it home. His grandma found it, made him get rid of it. And at some point, when I hear about this, I always think, wow, I wish they would have just let him have his stupid mannequin. Maybe a lot of this wouldn't happen. He was okay with doing what he did. So when they got rid of the mannequin, they also almost found one of his first victims' head in his closet. His dad came really close to it. Now, this shows a lot in many of his movies that he was in. And it's not just for the drama that they put that he really got close to that. His dad, Lionel Dahmer, we'll talk about it later on, how he found a box. He couldn't get the key to it. And then there was a head in there. It was already mummified. They didn't talk much about the smell coming out of his closet. So I assume he had done something like boil it or put in acid. And I know he wrapped it. So they didn't talk about the smell, but they did talk about the box and not wanting to have pornography in there, because they did see male pornography and definitely didn't want him being a homosexual. They wanted him to go to church and, repent his sins. So, all right. So he never admitted being a homosexual at any point. It all started way back when he was a young boy. You can see right here. And the telltale signs of becoming a serial killer were very familiar with what we know now. When he was growing up, he lived in a semi-rural area where he would find roadkill and take them apart. He'd take them apart, cut them, dissect them, play with them, and dissolve their bodies in acid. He had a really big collection, as a matter of fact, and taxidermy became one of his hobbies that people knew about. His friends would go back now and talk about it, and they'd say, oh yeah, he liked to do taxidermy. He loved finding roadkill and playing with it. As a matter of fact, he had a little shack in the back when he was growing up. I think the house is out in Washington, if I recall. It's actually still out there today, and they, not too long ago, rented it out. They would rent it out for the weekend for an astronomical amount because it was Jeffrey Dahmer's house that he grew up in. So he would find the roadkill, take it into the shack in the back, dissolve it, play with it, cut it, do whatever he wanted. And then he had a big collection of bones. Such a big collection of bones that he'd have skulls and, legs and ribs and all these pieces that he'd just have in piles. And everybody knew, and nobody really thought anything. His dad actually thought he was into science, and maybe at some point he'd be a scientist. But in high school, Dahmer said he actually dissected a pig in class, and not so normal, he ended up decapitating the pig and taking the head home to keep it and preserve it. So that was the first of his string of decapitating things, saving the head and preserving it. And it wasn't like it was a trophy. It was to keep him company. He felt warm inside about it, apparently. So he also admitted later on that when he was cutting up the pig in class, and this is the first time he did this, he decided to cut up the insides, and then he felt them. He felt the insides, and he loved how the insides felt. He loved how the organs felt. He loved how the guts felt. He loved running his hands through the inside of something or somebody's body and feeling the slimy guts and the blood, which at this point, when you're working on something at school, right, you're not going to get blood in it. So he didn't get that, and ultimately he needed to get the satisfaction later on, which is what he does. So I got my dog behind me that's what's the no on the summary? You can't see the summary, or you don't know about the summary. Sadie's mama. I'm going to pull my dog down again because I'm not sure why he's crying, but can't let dogs cry. You might be able to see him back here. All right, time number 2. We're gonna get you in here because, come on. So the dogs are just crying. I'm not sure why. I just thought, yeah, he is. He's behind me just crying. I don't know why. I know, but it's not. I don't. Sorry about that. I probably should have put something on. I hope I didn't lose anyone. So, all right, we're back to this, and I'm going to continue reading it. So, this led to him doing the things that he did later on. He liked feeling the organs in the blood, and those were the things that would come as a young adult into adulthood with human beings. He admitted later on, after being in jail, that he would do the same thing with the humans, except he would cut up the victims while they were still warm. He liked the warm blood and the guts, and he would rub the insides all over himself while he was naked to feel the intestines, the lungs, the hearts, one heart, multiple people, hearts and guts all over him. He said it was to get the essence of the person so that it could last forever. Now, he didn't just like the way that felt. It aroused him sexually. So he would have sex with them and he would cut them open. So they would be alive. He'd have sex with them. Then he'd cut them open, have sex with them while they were dead. So he'd do it before death, during death, while he was doing his ritual cutting, and then when he was done. So when they were completely done, no more life in them, he had already played with their insides, did everything. He was, that's what he'd do. So that's why I would say necrophilia is right up there with his cannibalism. He was heavily into necrophilia, which many people might not know because they call him the cannibal. They seem to focus on him eating the people, which was a lot less frequently than actual the necrophilia portion. Yeah, that is gross, right? Hey, Crystal. Yeah, that is really reading it and putting this presentation for you guys together as I'm going through here and trying to pick things apart. I'm like, man, this guy was really sick and twisted, and he talked about it just like it was nothing. We'll see some of the interviews where he actually talks, and when he does, just there's zero emotion, and he tries to justify it with just, hey, I'm sick and I'm getting better. I'm getting better about this. Hey, Wes, no being on the camera. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, at the time that was a shock factor, not done before, but yeah, that was definitely the shock factor. And they put these serial killers or killers into categories of, here's the cannibals, but they don't talk much about necrophilia, which they didn't actually see in the apartment. So they couldn't say anything. So he spilled his guts, no pun intended. And he talked all about this later on, just got everything off his chest and talked about really all the sick things that he did. So now you can see the many faces of him having dark thoughts here. This is around the time when he was starting to play with the roadkill, and he looks a little bit kind of starting a little creepy there. Maybe it's the haircut. This is probably around the time where he had actually picked up a hitchhiker and killed his first victim. His parents were out of town. They left him alone a lot, hence why he was lonely and ended up keeping these people not as trophies, but as companions, silent companions that wouldn't talk. Now, he did drug his victims, so that was a big telltale sign of him wanting his victims to be zombified and do what they wanted. He actually did not want a partner that would be able to dominate him or touch him back or do any of that stuff. So yeah, he was doing these things because he enjoyed it. He had the urge for it, and he knew what he wanted. He was going to these gay clubs and he was putting drugs in drink. He had over a dozen prescriptions later on that they found that he was using to crush up and put in there. So he was a really good looking guy in the gay community, the black gay community for the most part. And yet he still needed to drug these people and make them submissive. So of course, after a while, they catch on, and this is why the last person that was able to escape actually escaped and brought them back to the apartment because he got sloppy. He had tons of bodies and heads and containers with acid in there. So yeah, that's him. There's the summary of him. All right, so we're going to go on next to the timeline. Now we can go straight down. I know I jumped all over, but I really wanted to tell you about the story and just give you a summary of what's going on with this guy. Because, a lot of people don't know a lot of those details that were just, I think was too much for people to even talk about then. All right, so his timeline. We've got, I'm going to get rid of this one, and I'm going to put the timeline on. And we could go right through the years and, all right, go right through the years and just jam through them. And you could kind of hear in progression of what happened. All right, back on here. I'm going to mute myself for a second, and I'll pull up the next one. Now we're into the timeline. Got that. We've worked out the little kinks, hopefully. There it is. Yay. All right. Let's double check. Everybody can see the timeline, and you can, and we'll pull that up. And all right. So Jeffrey Dahmer timeline. So it starts May 21st. Let me make sure I'm not. Okay. I'm making sure I wasn't muted. All right, there we go. I lost a person, but we're still there. I hope not, because of what I was talking about. May 21st, and I'm going to go directly down this so you can visualize the timeline. May 21st, 1960, Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer is born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In 1978, Dahmer graduates from Revere High School in Bath, Ohio. So it skipped around quite a bit. It goes all the way from the time he was born till the time he graduated. In 1978, Dahmer's first known murder was Stephen Hicks. Now, this is the hitchhiker that I talked about that was killed. He was a hitchhiker just cruising along the side of the road, and Dahmer had a fantasy to pick up a hitchhiker. So there's the first one, Stephen Hicks. He didn't get far or do anything with him other than take him home. He wanted to keep him because his parents were out of town. And so there you have it. He, smoked some weed with him, worked out. He promised the guy that he would take him to a show. He was going to drop him off at some rock show. And then he made a pass at him. Dahmer made a pass at Stephen Hicks. Stephen Hicks wasn't gay. Dahmer said he wasn't gay, but he made a pass at him. Stephen Hicks kind of freaked out, said he was going to leave, and Stephen Hicks was walking out the door. Dahmer came behind him with a dumbbell, and there you have it. First kill was Stephen Hicks. So that starts the era of over a decade of killing. Now, there we are, 1978 to 1987. Now, this is a period in which Dahmer's life is marked by alcohol abuse, failed relationships, and many arrests. Nothing stood out to cops, however. They just kind of let him slip through because he was this good-looking kind of white guy in these black neighborhoods, and whenever he would get kind of caught with doing anything, or there'd be a gay drug man that was drugged out, he would just say, "Oh, this is my boyfriend, just leave him alone." And the cops were very homophobic. They were very homophobic, and so they just said, "Oh, take your boyfriend home." As a matter of fact, later on, the cops actually get fired for not helping one of the 14-year-old victims. Yes, 14 that he said was his boyfriend, and they let him go. So they didn't even listen. Hello, everybody. Crystal, Stephanie. All of you guys are amazing. This is awesome. And I know it's going to get even better. Juror number 13. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So yeah, this started the over a decade of this. So it was marked by alcohol, failed relationships, arrest. Then 1989, Dahmer's second victim comes, Stephen Tuomi. Now I'm gonna show pictures when I get to his actual victims, but you can see some of this stuff here. Spoiler alert: he does get beat to death later on, and you can see him right there. That was literally him. Nothing grayed out or anything. Just what happened. Dumbbells and working out equipment, which, if you look here, hey, Karma, first one, he does that with a dumbbell and everything. So it came back at him. I wouldn't say it was instant because it was over a decade, but 1989, second victim, Stephen Tuomi, is murdered. Then 1989 to 1991, I love to hear about the killing sprees and what the time frame is. When I watch these movies or any of these documentaries, I'm always wondering, man, I wonder how long. It's so intense, all these killings. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? How long was that? Was that like 2 weeks, or was that 2 years, or was that 20 years? Right? You've got all these different killers that sometimes are not solved forever. So Dahmer's killing spree intensifies. He targets young men always, and often of color. Most of them were black. Some of them were Asian. Some of them were Asian and related. One of them was a brother, and one of them ended up being the other brother that got the 14-year-old that got killed. A little confusing, but he should have got stopped right then and there. This is the second time he should have got stopped. So he engages in all these acts of dismemberment, necrophilia, and cannibalism between 1989 and 1991. So we've got 1989 to 1990 and then 1991. So it's about 2 years that this happens, of all this chaos that I'm going to show you the victims in a bit. So May 1991, Dahmer's neighbor, Conorak Synthesomphone, I don't want to do him any injustice, Conorak, he escapes from Dahmer's apartment. This is a 14-year-old kid, but he's returned by police officers. He's literally returned by the police officers, and this incident, along with a subsequent failed attempt to escape by another victim, Tracy Edwards, eventually leads to Dahmer's arrest. Unbelievably, Conorak's brother was the one earlier on that Jeffrey Dahmer took home, offered to buy him shoes, took pictures of him, and then he actually let him go. Now, he could have killed him, but he didn't. They took Dahmer to court. He got arrested, was on probation for Conorak Synthesophone's brother. And now when this happens, the town is starting to keep an eye on him, look out for him. The whole family of Conoraks knew about it, and they said, stay away from this white guy. Now, later on, Conorak is in a store, wants shoes. Dahmer buys him that, takes him home, and learned his lesson. You got to kill them. You got to drug them, and you got to kill them if you want to not get caught and be on probation. Or any of that, right? So he learned his lesson, and there's the demise of poor Conorak. So there you have it, 1991 of May. Now, July 1992, as you can see, now we're going to start into the spree. Dahmer's arrested. This is from 1989 to 91. Tracy Edwards leads the police to Dahmer's apartment, where they discover evidence of his horrific crimes. I'm going to show you a video later. July 25th. That's my birthday, everybody. 1991. I was born in 1979, not 91. Charges are filed against Dahmer, and he's initially charged with the murder of Stephen Hicks. Now, Stephen Hicks, if you remember, was his first one, the hitchhiker. I had to go back and look because there's 17 of them that I have to remember. So 1991, he's charged with Stephen Hicks, which is the very first one, and he's cooperating. So he's telling them everything at this point, and his lawyer is saying, why are you telling them everything? And he's saying, well, I got to get it off my chest. I already got caught. Everything's in my apartment. They took everything. They can see the pictures. And this guy escaped. That told. So, August 22nd, 1991. Almost a month later, he's charged with and he confesses to the murders of 16 more victims. Crazy. His lawyer, I watched a documentary recently, and his lawyer was like, whoa, it was a female, and she just had to sit there and listen. Many people said to her, what is, how is it that you could sit there next to this guy? How could you stand it? Aren't you afraid? And she said, that's my job. I have to do this, and I have to listen to him, and I have to get it out. So, less than a month later, August 22nd, 1991, he's charged with confesses 16 victims. Now we're going to fast forward to September, October, November, December, January. 6 months later, Dahmer enters a plea of guilty but insane to the charges against him. Now, we all know he's not insane, and we're going to hear that when we hear him talking. He talks very well. He knows what he's doing. He plans it. So he says he's guilty, but he's saying that he's mentally incapacitated. So February 15th, he's sentenced to 16 life terms in prison, totaling 936 years. 1994, November 28th, along with another inmate, is murdered by a fellow prisoner, Christopher Scarver. I knew they were going to say his name, at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. So, Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes and the details surrounding them shocked the world, and his case remains one of the most infamous examples of serial murder in modern history. We'll go over some pictures, and then after I do the victims, because I always want to name the victims, I will go over some videos, and then we'll be able to see all these things that I'm talking about. So I did the summary. I went over the timeline. We'll do some videos. I mean, we're already 47 minutes into it, and I'm like, I haven't even shown half this stuff yet. So yeah, get your headphones on. If you haven't washed the dishes, I know some people got to go, but you can do this on a rewatch. But yeah, hang in there with me. All right. So there's some pictures. You know who Dahmer is. You've seen it. There's the infamous freezer coming out with the parts. There's him that when he got smashed in the head. There's his dad always supporting him. MSNBC trying to justify it. Not justifiable at all. We're going to get out of that. We're going to go into the victims next. I'm going to name them off one by one. After that, we'll be able to go through the videos, and then I can hang back a little. I've been talking a lot, and I haven't been able to put it on mute. So if you hear any background noises, you won't hear those soon when I'm playing the videos. All right. So I got one more thing to go over, and then we'll watch the videos and see some court footage, actually see him talk, watch the victims talk, the victim's family, and even one of the victims that escaped. All right. So get out of this, and let's go back to the timeline. Or no, I'm sorry, not the timeline, the victims. I'm going to mute this for a second. A lot going on in the background. I'll find. Sorry about that. All right, I'm pulling this up. Hey, Chris. All right. Okay, so I'll definitely have, I really like this spot that I'm in, but I'm gonna probably have to change it at some point before my next live. All right, so I like that juror 13. I find it hard to believe that he had that period from 1979 to 1987 that he killed no one. I agree. I thank you. Love that little picture up there. Not sure who that is. I I see you around a lot and I don't know, but looks like you're fishing or somebody's fishing. So maybe tell me about it in the comments. Yeah, it doesn't seem like likely that that happened, and we don't know much about anything else because he didn't get to share it. Because yeah, it's too bad. I was happy. I remember hearing the day that they said that he got taken out, and I was like, yes, they needed justice. They needed to give him the death penalty, and they didn't because he confessed. So yeah, it's like Chris Watts or any of these other guys, right? They confess and they get a sweet deal. They get to live. And yeah, that's a beautiful spot, Juror 13. That would be my favorite spot too. All right. So I want to name his victims, and then I'll play some really cool videos that are nostalgic and very, very historic and very well known. All right. Jeffrey Dahmer, as you know, was convicted of murdering and dismembering 17 young men between 1978 and the hard believed 1991. But it says that it gave those years. However, it was only really between 1989 and 1991. His victims were primarily young homosexual men, and many of them were people of color, most black, but nonetheless brown. Okay, so I'm going to name the victims. 17 of them. Hang in there with me. Stephen Hicks, June 1978, Dahmer's first known victim. Hitchhiker, whom Dahmer picked up and later killed. Stephen Tuomi, 1987. His exact murder date is uncertain. Tuomi's remains were never found, and Dahmer had difficulty recalling details. James Doxeter, January 1988. Dahmer claimed this victim in his confession, but the details remain unclear. Doxeter's remains were never identified. Richard Guerrero, March 24th, 1998. Now, these are their death dates that I'm giving you here. Hitchhiker, whom Dahmer drugged and strangled. Anthony Sears, January 24th, 1989. Dahmer's first victim of the 1990s. He dismembered and Dahmer kept his skull. Edward Smith, June 1990. Dahmer claimed to have killed him, but the details are unclear. Smith's remains were never found. Ricky Beeks, June 1990. Dahmer claimed to have killed him, but details are unclear. Beeks' remains were never found. Ernest Miller, September 1990. Again, Dahmer claimed to have killed him, but details were unclear. Miller's remains were never found. David Thomas, September 24th, 1990. Dahmer's neighbor, whom he lured to his apartment and killed. Now, if you watch any of the documentaries, you'll see that. He moved in and he disappeared right away. Curtis Strotter, February 1991. Dahmer claimed to have killed him, but details are unclear. Strotter's remains were never found. Errol Lindsay, April 1991. Dahmer claimed to have killed him, but details are unclear. Lindsay's remains were never found. Tony Hughes, May 24th, 1990. Dahmer lured him to his apartment and killed him. Now, he was one of the gentlemen from the gay nightclubs. Conorak Synthesophone, May 27th, 1991. A Laotian teenager with whom Dahmer drugged and killed. He was only 14 years old. Again, Conorak's brother was earlier taken home, given money, presents, drugged by Dahmer, and let go of. Dahmer was ultimately charged with that crime, but just received a little bit of time, less than 2 years, given probation, and let off to do this crime to his brother. The family was very devastated, and ultimately they got a settlement. They got around $850 because they sued the city which they lived in. The cops in this case were ultimately given their job back, but they were fired at first. But at this time in the 90s, people were just homophobic. Let's be real. People are still homophobic, but they were a lot more homophobic, and it was okay for police officers and government officials. It's barely becoming okay now. So we're making progress here, but that's how it goes. Matt Turner, June 30th, 1991. Dahmer claimed to have killed him, but details are unclear. Turner's remains were never found. Jeremiah Weinberger, July 5th, 1991. Dahmer claimed to have killed him, but details are unclear. Weinberger's remains were never found. Oliver Lacey, June 12th, 1991. Dahmer claimed to have killed him. Details are unclear. Lacey's remains were never found. Joseph Bradhoff, July 19, 1991. Dahmer's final victim, whom he killed and dismembered. We don't know exactly what else happened because they found lots of remains, lots of acid, lots of things that were wrapped up in drawers and closets and in the fridge. We really don't know. All right, everybody. So there's still people hanging in there with me. Thank you. I'm glad that you guys are here. This is awesome. This is probably my best live so far, and I'm really glad. I'm really glad that you guys are here because I'm glad I'm not boring you to death. This is great. So now I'm showing the victims on the screen, and this is really, we gotta remember these guys and not just talk about them like it's part of Dahmer's story. It's part of their story. So I'm gonna name each one. We're gonna go left to right really quick so you can put a face to these names that I'm freaking calling out, and making sure that I say them right, making sure that I call out the dates because I really want to respect them. I want to respect their family. I like to respect everybody in this true crime community, and I really like to give the details. As you can tell, I do a presentation just so that I can get it right. I want to make sure I'm not just looking on the internet and speculating things that actually happen and, not just making them up. I am known as the voice of reason wherever I am. So keep that in mind. Sometimes it's really hard for me to just make up stories about stuff. Every once in a while, you'll hear me speculating, but I always have a strong theory, and I have to have evidence of some sort that backs it up, or I'd rather just not say anything. Thank you, Carly Armstrong. You're amazing. I'm so glad that you were here. And yes, please catch it on the replay. Tell Greeno I said hello. True Crime Investigates. All of you probably seen it because you're all Zab Girl followers and True Crime Investigates, Anthony Greeno. Thank you. Thank you. And juror number 13, I'm going to answer your question. Do you think drugs played a part in him not remembering details, or was he being dishonest? I feel like he remembered every last detail. I agree. You know what? This is a good question. Dahmer didn't even do drugs. Now, he drank. I guess, we're not in prohibition anymore, so alcohol is legal, and I kind of think of it as not a drug. But he did drink, and I agree with you. He remembered everything to the last detail, and he had his favorites. And if you read any of the books that he helped author, which were many, because his dad actually authored things and came out with documentaries, and of course they were fed by Dahmer. So I agree. I think there was details that he wanted to keep to himself. Actually, I don't know if it was him being dishonest or if he just wanted to kind of have private things that he wasn't proud of a lot of things, and he would say it. But honestly, I think there was some of it that I think it was partly being dishonest, partly being secretive, and partly just kind of wanting to not say stuff because he was just not proud of himself, and his dad was there every second. So yeah, it's interesting when I do say that the remains weren't found and so forth. I think some of it might have been that he buried them and the bones scattered. Animals got to them. But I do think he remembered. He loved that stuff. He only did it for the thrill, for the hunt, to have these guys with him. He didn't want to be alone, and he was attracted to these guys. So I'm going to zoom back in here, and let's go from left to right. I said their names, but I want to make sure that you guys see them if you're watching. So this is Strotter, Hicks, Guerrero, Weinberger, Doxeter. Now, if this was in the 2000s or not, or any time that had a smartphone, we'd have better pictures. But these were kind of the best pictures I could get. Beeks, Lacey, Lindsay, Synthesifoam, Miller, Hughes. Let's see. Where'd my no, it got cut off on the bottom, so don't know why I can't see it, but we know the rest of them. Everything went in the timeline, so we went from left to right, and we have the list of names above. So I'm gonna assume that we got Hughes. So after Hughes, we got Tony. Tony was, by the way, Tony Hughes was an aspiring actor, and he was actually a deaf man. So when you watch a lot of the documentaries, you get to see the heartbreaking story of his family and how much his mom loved him and didn't want him to get hurt. So not that all of them weren't sad. This 14-year-old kid saddened me, and every other one, right? And all these guys were really good looking in their own right. But Hughes, yeah, they definitely got to me when they told that story. So we're going left to right. So I'm gonna assume that it's Matt Turner, Oliver Lacey, and all the other names that I didn't name. Don't know why I got cut off. All right. So we went over that. I'm going to stop sharing that. And we're going to come back to my face and get this off of here. And there's still some people with me. So now you can either watch it on a replay. Hopefully you stay with me. But I'm going to play videos on a Friday night. And trust me, I have many places that do this. And the family's not loving that I'm this out in the wide open. Look at my shirt. It's the Twilight Zone. You've crossed into the Twilight Zone, everybody. So now I'm going to get to it and pull up some videos, play some, comment on some, and just let you all relax and listen to some of these things, some of the heartbreaking things, some of the Dahmer talking. Just chill out on a Friday night, not care too much about anything, not worry about how I'm doing here, doing the best I can. Later on, I'm going to probably laugh at my stuff and say, oh, wow, I could have done better than this. But, you gotta get there at some point. So let's get to where I have my links and find these guys. I did my little recaps, and where are we? I sent stuff to myself from myself, so now I just got to find it and see where the links were. And here we are. Great. All right, so now I want to see what I want to start with. Probably the best thing to start with would be before. So let's do the crime scene investigator, and let's check that out. I'm going to pull up the crime scene, and we're oh no, we don't. I don't want to play the crime scene investigator. That's it. I'm going to open all these so I can actually see what they are. I was doing a live earlier that I couldn't help, and let's see. Yeah, I couldn't help it, and then I ran late. So what I wanted to see, I thought I had clips from when they actually did the crime scene, but I probably do in here somewhere. Okay. I don't want to do sentencing yet because we haven't gone through any of the stuff. So I'm going to do what makes the most sense and start say got caught. Dahmer caught. Let's see. Dahmer getting caught. That's probably the best thing to start with is him getting caught. So let's start with Dahmer getting caught, and yes, Twilight Zone. I still love Twilight Zone. Still my favorite thing now. I love the black and the white ones. And, I'm not that old, but I just grew up on that. Black and white ones. I love the color ones. I love all Twilight Zone stuff. So, my Friday night chill shirt. Usually you'll see me in a button up or some kind of work shirt. All right, let's get to it, and let's play the Jeffrey Dahmer WI Wisconsin versus Jeffrey Dahmer and victim Tracy Edwards testifying about how he caught Dahmer. And yes, Outer Limits. I love Outer Limits. Sci-fi horror. And then we'll move on to horror because I love horror. Oh, God, I could have a whole channel about that too. All right, let's listen to Tracy Edwards and talk about how Jeffrey Dahmer got captured.
Someone swear all the testimony you're about to give this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please be seated. And sir, would you tell us your name? And spell your last name for us.
Tracy Edwards, Edwards.
Mr. Edwards, you're going to ask you to speak up very loudly into the microphone. I would like to know in what state do you reside at the present time?
Louisiana.
And how old are you, sir?
32.
32, and you are single?
Yes.
You were in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on July the 22nd, 1991?
Yes.
And at or about that time, on that late afternoon, did you have occasion to see a person that you knew at that time or subsequently learned was a fellow by the name of Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes.
And you know that Mr. Dahmer you're speaking about is the defendant in this case to my right, correct?
Yes.
And that I made a record, I showed the identification.
Sir, would you indicate where Mr. Dahmer is seated in the courtroom?
It's over there.
Right in the middle between my two associates?
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
The record should reflect the defendant's been identified.
Now, Mr. Edwards, you and I met for the first time last evening,
Yes.
and you came up from Louisiana at my request with your attorney,
Right.
Mr. Saeed, S-Y-E-D, Salet, S-A-L-E-T.
That's correct.
And you came up here to testify to the events, as you recall them, that occurred on the late afternoon, early evening, early morning hours of July the 22nd and the morning of July the 23rd, 1991.
That's correct.
So that you know, Mr. Edwards, your name is known to the jury because there has been testimony concerning what happened to you and at the apartment of Mr. Dahmer. Do you understand?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Where did you know Mr. Dahmer by name prior to that date?
I've seen him a couple of times before then. I didn't know his name personally.
All right. Did you ever talk to him before that date?
I was speaking to him, saying hello as he passed by. Yeah.
Just casual, friendly?
Casual. Yeah.
Hellos.
Hellos, yeah.
Where was it that you saw him in the late afternoon, early morning hours of July the 22nd?
Grand Avenue Mall.
And that was in Milwaukee,
Correct.
downtown on Wisconsin Avenue.
Wisconsin, correct.
Were you with somebody or were you alone?
A couple of our friends, yeah.
Okay, so the record is absolutely clear. You are not a homosexual, are you?
No, not at all.
Okay. So you were with a couple of your buddies, were you?
That's correct.
And what were you
cares?
doing?
We was drinking beer,
this
just
stuff
talking,
makes me
hanging
mad.
out,
About 6 o'clock at night, was this?
Yeah, about 6:15, whatever.
Did you have occasion then to see Mr. Dahmer?
Yeah, he approached us eventually and started talking to us. Yeah,
Were you three black males?
yeah. One white, two black male.
Okay. So you're friends.
Yeah, my best friend was white. Yeah,
When he came up and started talking to you, what is it that Mr. Dahmer said to you?
he said he was just in the city from Chicago. He was taking care of her sick grandmother, I believe, in West Allis. Yeah.
And did he have any further conversation with you and your friends?
Yeah, he was just talking. He said he was a professional photographer. He usually pays people for pictures and stuff like that. If anybody was interested in making money at that time.
To have to pose for pictures?
Yeah.
Did he describe the kind of pictures that you were going to be posing for if you chose to take him up on the offer?
He said nude.
Nude.
Right.
Now, after he said that to you, what did you and your friends do?
They were just talking, discussing it, seeing what was going on. Yeah.
And what did you end up doing? Did you remain at Grand Avenue or did you go somewhere else?
We proceeded from there. He said he was going to buy all his guys beer, rum, and coke, watch videos or something like that.
Rum and coke, did you say?
Yeah, we went to the liquor store on Wisconsin Avenue, 7th and Wisconsin Avenue.
So you walked from Grand Avenue down to 7th and Wisconsin?
Yeah, up, so to speak. Yeah,
At that
between
time-
5th and 6th, 7th, something like that. I'm not
Okay.
really sure.
The general area of 6th or
Right.
7th in Wisconsin.
Right.
Was it going to be the three of you and Mr. Dahmer were going to stay together, or was it agreed upon that one or others of you were going to go with Mr. Dahmer, or was there no agreement?
They were going to meet up with us eventually later on that evening.
Meet up with who?
Jeffrey at his apartment, but he gave them the wrong address at that time.
Okay, so did the three of you and your two friends and Mr. Dahmer, walk down to a liquor store, and what happened when you got to the liquor store?
I saw my brother. We started talking. At this time, Jeff was talking to my other friends.
So you say you saw your brother. He wasn't one of the three that you were with
No,
then?
no.
You saw him on the street?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had conversation.
Right.
Okay, did anyone go into a liquor store and buy anything?
Mr. Dahmer brought liquor. Yeah.
So he went
and
into
beer.
a liquor store?
Right.
And when he came out, who was still there?
Okay. When he came out, we were all still there.
And then what happened? Tell us what happened then.
Okay. He was talking to them. Then we are going to go up the street. I was going to go home and change and everything at this time. So we proceeded. We caught a cab at the bus station,
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what was your plan as you were in front of that liquor store after Mr. Dahmer came out with the liquor and you had been talking to your brother? What was your plan? What were you going to do? You say you were going to go home and change clothes?
Yeah, and eventually I was going to go over there, and maybe check out what he was talking about making the money at that time.
So your interest was in making some money.
Right.
Did he tell you how much you would be paid if you did pose for him?
He said $100 for.
You
for a
had
shot.
no idea, did you, that this was for any homosexual
No,
conduct?
he didn't come across like that, and he didn't even act like it at that time.
Okay. So now your friends are still there, and you're going to go home and you order a cab for the over at the bus depot. What happens? Tell us what happens.
Okay, and then me and Dahmer, my friends said they're going to go and change and call up the girls, and we'll meet up later on. Yeah.
Was there an address given as to where you were going?
He gave them some address that wasn't correct.
You later found that out?
Right from my friends. Yeah.
What happened then? Who else remained there when this was all transpired? Just you and Mr. Dahmer, or you, Mr. Dahmer, and others?
After it all had transpired, it was me and Mr. Dahmer in the cab, leaving.
You met up at about 6 o'clock, 6:15. What time is it now at this time?
It's maybe 6:30 as we get to 26th in Wisconsin.
So you stop at 26th in Wisconsin, and what happens there?
Okay, we get out the cab then, and then he suggested he go to the store and get cigarettes before he went to his apartment.
And after he did that, did you go to his apartment?
Yeah,
What route?
through the alleys, through the back way. We entered the back.
Was there any discussion as to why you were taking that route?
Said it was safer, people wouldn't bother us or whatever.
At the time that you were walking with him towards his apartment, what was your plans on doing when you got to the apartment?
Really drinking the beer, I wasn't really sure if I was going to pose or not, Yep, I wasn't really sure at that point. No.
You at least were contemplating maybe.
I saw him on a bunch of different, I think he was on Geraldo and, of course, other talk shows back then. And, I think he's still doing okay, or he's doing okay. He's definitely never going to forget this, but I'll definitely look that up. I'm interested in how he's doing today, if he's still even alive, what's going on, but I think he is. I think he's thriving and doing pretty well. He's the one that caught Dahmer, so he's a hero. He really is truly a hero in my mind.
You would.
Well, yeah, I was going to make up my mind once I got there, whatever.
Were you in need of money?
Yeah, I just started working, and the offer sounded good at that time.
Okay. Now, when you got to his apartment, how was he acting? Tell us about his. Tell me about his demeanor. You know what I mean by that, Mr. Edwards?
Yes,
How
I
was he
understand.
acting?
Just like a normal, everyday person, you know, friendly, good conversationalist. He was talking about the military, things of that nature. Yeah.
Had you been in the military?
My father retired in the Air Force, so I've been to several different bases. I was born on an Army base in Fort Carson.
And that's the kind of thing you were talking to him
It's
about.
like a family thing, you know, so I know a lot about it.
Had he been drinking alcohol?
Yeah, I consumed some. He was drinking beer at the time. When I first
Well,
met.
the time that you were like going to his apartment, was he intoxicated?
No.
Had he
no.
been drinking?
Yeah, I've been drinking a couple of beers.
How about you? Were you intoxicated?
No, not at all.
Had you had something to drink?
I sipped maybe a little beer, my friend's beer. That was it.
All right, now you get to the apartment. Do you go in the back way?
Yes, correct.
You went up to the apartment. Tell us what happens when you get up to the apartment. Tell us what you observed, what your senses told you.
Okay. First of all, it seemed like a normal apartment. When we got inside, he turned out burglar alarms. I asked him why. First, it was a foul odor. Okay.
Tell us about that. What kind of an odor?
It was just like an odor. I didn't quite know what it was. You know, he told me a sewer pipe had broke and management would take care of it. Yeah.
And did you accept that?
Yes, because I worked around at construction companies before, and when pipes bust, sewer pipes bust, they smell. You know.
Okay.
So I brought that.
So you say your first thing you did was notice the odor. He opened the door to the apartment
Yes,
and you walked in.
yes.
He turned off something. What did he turn off?
Alarms.
Did you ask him about that?
Yeah, and he said the part of the neighborhood he was in, he was protecting his property, things like that, cameras, VCRs, TVs, things of that nature.
Did you accept that?
Yes, I did.
After getting in the apartment, can you generally describe the apartment, both the apartment that you saw then and the apartment that the other parts of the apartment you saw? Tell the jury what the apartment was like.
It was like normal, pretty decent apartment, had nice things in it. You know, it had certain boxes sitting on the front, neurotic acid boxes. I asked him about it. He said he cleaned bricks with those, you know, which you can use that type of acid to clean bricks. So I brought that also.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you just said. You asked him about some boxes,
Yeah, that were laying in the front living room floor.
and what did he tell you about those?
That he cleaned brick with the neurotic acid.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, was the apartment small, large, medium? Give us a size.
Kind of medium size. Yeah.
Right now, when you went in there, you went in, as you entered, were you in the living room?
Yes.
And what was the living room? What did you see in there? The boxes you told us
The
about?
boxes is a couch. There's a fish tank there also. A black lamp.
The famous fish
Yeah,
tank.
there was a little table like
I'm gonna
on the
pull up a
left side.
picture of him afterwards.
Could you see a
so you can see.
refrigerator? Or
Yeah, I could see the refrigerator on my left.
was it close to the living room?
Yeah, maybe 8 feet from the living room.
And so it was just off the living room.
Right.
Now, did you stay in that room or did you go to another room right away?
We stayed in that room for a while.
And where did you sit, if you did?
Okay. At the end of the sofa, like I am now, this is a sofa. I was at this end, and he was at this side.
Referring to the jury, I mean, the witness box, if that were a sofa, he would be at that end. That is the end where he's seated on the witness stand, which would be the part closest to the judge. Is that right?
That's correct.
And where did Mr. Dahmer, what did he do?
He sat like here, maybe a couple feet from me.
Not
on my
close
left.
to you.
Maybe 2 feet.
You in fear of anything at that time?
Not at all.
Okay, and what did the two of you do?
Okay, he said we were still talking, chatting, you know. He asked me, was I interested in doing the photography? You know, I told him I was still contemplating, so therefore he offered me a beer and a rum and Coke mixture at that point.
Now, you're fully clothed,
Yes,
okay, and you're sitting on a couch,
right.
and he talks to you about this posing. You weren't sure you're going to do it.
Right.
How much had you been offered to do the posing?
$100.
Okay. And when he brings you the beer, he brings you rum and Coke?
Yeah, he brings the beer first, and then he brings the rum and Coke.
How big of a glass?
Maybe that big.
About 4 inches high?
About 4 inches, yeah, 3.5, something like that.
Did you ever taste it?
Yeah, I took a few sips.
Was it strong, weak, medium, or just about right?
I'm not a big liquor drinker, so it didn't taste that good to me. I don't.
Didn't taste good to you. You don't know if it was strong or not.
Strong or not, no, because I'm like,
What did Mr. Dahmer do? Did he likewise have a drink?
no, I think, yeah, right, a beer, But I don't think he drank all of his drink at that time.
Did he have any rum with him?
I just noticed the beer, right?
What time are we talking about now that you're sitting on the couch and you get the beer? You got over there about what time and how long after this?
It was about before 7, quarter to 7, something like that.
So you're sitting on the couch, he brings you a beer and rum and coke, what happens?
Okay, then we just study talking and everything, you know.
General talk?
General talk.
What happens?
Yeah, then I was just, I don't know, getting a little agitated maybe, you know, because of the smell and things. And then he threw my conversation off talking about the fish in the fish tank, you know.
Okay, when you start talking about the fish in the fish tank, do you bring that up or does he?
He does.
And what do you do when he does that?
I turn to the right, like the fish tank is here. I'm turning all the way over here.
You turn to your right to look at it?
To look at the fish tank, right.
And when that happens, what happens to you?
All of a sudden, a handcuff and a knife is pulled
Here it
out.
is.
Yeah.
Handcuff is placed on your body? Where?
On my left wrist.
And you see a knife.
Yeah, the knife, yeah.
Now, at that moment, what do you do?
First, I feel fear. Then I ask him, what's going on? You know, this is not necessary, you know, to pull a knife on me at that
Are you
point.
afraid?
Yes.
Do you have any reason to know why he did that?
None whatsoever.
Did you have any idea at that time it was going to happen?
No.
Tell me about his demeanor at that time when you looked and realized he had a knife and you in a cuff. You were only cuffed on one wrist.
One wrist, yeah.
What was happening to the other part of the handcuff?
Okay, he had it in his hand.
He was holding it.
Holding that in the wrist, yeah.
Where was the knife? In the other hand?
The knife was like here.
Anyone seen this?
The knife was in his hand. He had it on me like this.
Let the record reflect he was holding the knife in his right hand as he showed it, holding the cuff in his left hand. Is that right?
Right.
And your left hand is cuffed.
Yeah, right.
Where do you have the knife? What kind of a knife was it?
It was like a military knife, a machete of some type. Yeah, he had it lowered right up under my rib cage, you know.
So you
In the
had
back, somewhere in the back here.
You had it pointed at your rib cage.
Yeah.
Did you feel it? Touch
Yeah,
it?
he had it on me. He had it against my body.
What happened? What was going through your mind the moment that happened when you realized you had a knife at your side and a handcuff on your hand? What do you think?
I think like, you know, what's going on, you know? This guy is so nice and all of a sudden, you know, it's like he's pulling knives and handcuffs and all on me, you know?
What'd you do? What'd you say to him?
I asked him what the problem was, you know, that it's not necessary to do this, you know?
What'd he say?
He told me at that point if I wouldn't do what he said, he would kill me, yeah?
Now, tell us about his demeanor at the time that you look at him and you say, what's going on? You don't have to do this. What happens to Mr. Dahmer? What's he like?
It's like not the same person that we met at Grand Avenue Mall.
How does he different?
His face structure seemed different, you know, his body structure is like it wasn't him anymore, you know? It's like it was a totally different guy there.
So he told you if you didn't do what he told you to do, he'd hurt you.
He hurt me.
What'd you do? What happened? Tell us what happened step by step as best you can remember.
And then all of a sudden he kind of calms down, you know?
I don't know if anyone else is catching on to this, but it sounds like he's being interrogated almost. I've watched many clips. I also would like to watch a lot more of the trial. And I think I'm going to do a part 2 with more videos. Tonight, I wanted to go longer on this, but unforeseen circumstances of my work area here, I'm going to have to set up another spot because some people stayed home today and there's a lot going on. So I'm going to play I'm going to play this. I'm going to show what happened with him. I want to play the crime scene ones. And then I'm going to do a part 2 after this to follow up with more of the clips from court and other interesting things that I really can't get into without going for like 4 hours tonight. But this is great. Like, I've actually never seen the full testimony. Well, I haven't even seen this 30 minutes, so I'm going to continue playing it. It's got like maybe 12 more, and then I want to show what happened after.
And then he said he has a key in the bedroom, so we proceed to the bedroom.
The key to the handcuffs.
Right.
So you believed he was going to take them off?
Yeah. At that point, I had to go along with this guy, you know, and then if I had to find out, so I walked back there with him. He kind of guides me back there, you know.
Guide you back with the cuff and the knife?
Yeah,
And
right,
you go into the bedroom.
right.
What do you see in the bedroom?
A big, about 50, 60 gallon drum barrel, whatever.
Do you ever see a 50, 60 drum barrel in anybody's bedroom
No.
before?
Not at all.
Do you have any idea? Did you ask him what it was?
No, at that point I asked no questions at that time.
Was there a bed in that room?
Yes.
How was the bed? Was it made, unmade? What did
It
what
was,
op-
it was unmade.
what did you see on the bed, if anything?
Something like a stain of whatever, yeah, on the bed.
What did you think it was?
At that point in time, I wasn't sure.
What did you do when you got in the bedroom as he's holding onto the cuff and the knife? What did you do?
Studied us talking, trying to be friends with him. You know,
Did you remain standing? Did you sit down? What?
he made me sit down at that point. We both sit on the bed.
Was it at the foot of the bed, side of the bed, head of the bed?
Maybe halfway between.
Did that room have a TV set in it?
Yes.
Was there anything going on the TV?
Yeah, the Exorcist movies was playing at that time.
There was an Exorcist movie on.
Yeah.
You know which one of them?
The name, I'm not sure. I think it's 3. I'm not sure which one.
So there was a movie. Did you know it to be part of television or VCR?
VCR, normally that's not on regular television, so I thought it was VCR.
You knew there was a movie show.
Played
Right.
Did you see him put it on,
over
or
and
was it
over.
on?
No, when we first got into the apartment, he went through the back to the back bedroom. Maybe he put it on then. I'm not sure.
Okay. And then what happened? You're both sitting on the bed.
Yes,
Are you still in handcuffs?
yes,
Is he holding the handcuff?
right,
Do you still have the knife?
right,
Is it pointed at your side as you've told us before?
right.
You trying to be cool?
Very much so.
You're not fighting with him?
No, not
What's
at
your intention? What are you planning on doing?
all. Getting away, I was contemplating on at the point jumping out the window. You know, I was basically talking with this person, trying to let him know I was his friend.
As you were sitting there on the bed, when he had you by the handcuff and a knife at your side, at that time, which would have been maybe 7 o'clock,
He sounds mad too.
Something like that.
what impression was made upon your mind by the conduct, action, manner, expression, and conversation that you observed of Mr. Dahmer?
His frame of mind is what you want to know, right? Okay, he acted. At times, he would go through like different changes with me. You know.
Tell us about that.
1 minute he's like nice, then he was telling he didn't want people to leave him or abandon him, things of this nature. You know. Yeah.
Well, what did you think about him as a person? What impression was made on your mind of this fellow that you're dealing with here?
Yeah. That at times he wasn't himself, and then at times he was like a nice guy. You know. He would come and go different times. You know. Throughout
Pure
the whole
evil.
time, then he would like
Pure
sit.
evil.
Being quiet at times, watching the movie, wanting me to watch the movie, you know, and just doing little tanning sounds, you know.
Did you observe him watching the movie and how he would react to the movie?
Right? He would like just start rocking back and forth when he, you know, certain parts of the movie or whatever.
You have to say, what did he say, Madam?
It was like chanting at certain times and rocking back and forth, right?
Tell us about his chanting. What was that all about?
I'm not even sure, sir, but it was just like, I can't tell you the words. I couldn't understand what he was saying at that time.
Can you mimic him? How it sounded?
It was like a slow slur, like some of that nature, some close like that. I'm not sure.
Did it keep on for a period of time?
Off and on throughout the ordeal.
And how about the movement back and forth? How was that being effectuated?
Just like back and forth, he would do it every now and then. You know,
Just as you are rocking in your
right,
chair
like this,
and chanting.
and chanting.
Was there any parts of the movie that was going on that you saw that he said anything about?
It was like the part about the preacher that used to be a preacher that had got possessed, and that it would seem like he was like interested in that part. That part had his attention more than anything. You know?
Tell us about what you mean by that. What impressions were made upon your mind when this was going on as to had his attention? How did he appear to you?
It appeared like it was like he wanted to mimic it or be like that part, you know, being demonized or whatever in that nature.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
Yeah, like he wanted that type of movie, that part, certain parts of that part interested him. you know. It was like he changed with it at times. Then he would get more aggressive, try to get me to handcuff myself, both hands. And he's told me it made him feel more dominant at that time.
Okay, did you and he move off of the bed at any time?
Yes, he wanted me to lay flat down, stomach down on the floor at that time.
Did you at any time go to the bathroom, use the washroom prior to the time that he asked you to lay down on the floor?
No.
All right, tell us what happened how did that happen that he told you to lay down on the floor?
He told me to lay down face down, put both of my hands behind my back because he changed again at that point, like he got more aggressive at that time.
Okay, now, but tell us, did he still have the knife out?
Yes, he still had the knife.
And what did you do?
Okay, I kind of like laid on my sides for some reason. I guess God told.
There's the fam.
Hi.
Hey, Sadie's mama. See, there they are. They want to hang out with me. So we're going to watch a little more and then I'll do a part 2. Juror 13 says, hi, ladies.
Yeah,
See
but
all
before-
this that I get to hang out with after? It was one of those nights I thought I was going to go longer, but it's hard.
No,
Yeah.
we're good.
All right.
We bought dinner.
We'll get back to
we're
it.
not feeding her.
Oh, shoot. You see that? What happens when I'm sharing with you guys?
Pure love.
Oh.
Told me not to lay flat down or let this person handcuff me, so I didn't.
So you were trying to stop that from happening, but you got
Right.
down on the floor.
Right.
What did he do?
He kind of laid across me, put his head across my chest at that point.
What was he doing with his head?
Pardon me?
What did it appear to you he was doing with his head? What was he trying to do?
Like he was listening to my heart, because at a point he told me he was going to eat my heart at that point.
He said he was going to eat your heart?
Yes, that's correct.
Did he still have the knife?
Yeah.
Where
Not
was the
yet.
knife
I'm
pointed?
still playing this. You hear this?
When I was on the floor, he had it pointed at my groin area at that time.
One knife?
He had several, and then he slid one. I managed to slide one underneath the bed. And I guess during a point of time through an ordeal, he didn't know where the knife was, so I didn't know if he felt that was a threat or not.
So he still had a knife, you're on the floor. How long does he lay on top of you trying to hear your heart as you've described it?
Maybe a minute and a half.
And then what did you do then?
I knew something was about to happen, so I suggested that I go to the bathroom. I had to use the bathroom at that
And
time.
what did he do?
He kind of guided me to the bathroom.
So when you say he guided, you still had hold of your handcuff?
Yes,
And you went to the bathroom.
right.
Did you urinate?
Yeah.
Were you able to utilize your own zipper? Or did he touch you at all?
Touched me in no way. Didn't attempt to look. He just held me in back. You know,
So in other words, he didn't try to look at what your penis looked like or anything?
not at all.
So after urinating, did you think that you were going to be the victim of, did he ask to engage in any homosexual acts with you?
None whatsoever.
Okay, so now you leave the bathroom and what happens?
Okay, then we go back into the bedroom. You know, it was like different time spans. We were talking about him losing his job. Then he would come to the person that I was first with, you know, and then at certain points he would change. You know, at first he was telling me about how people didn't care for him and things of this nature. And I was trying to comfort him, letting him know that I was a friend, you know, that I wasn't going to try to run away from him or nothing like that.
You were being cool.
I guess God, you can say that because I had no control. It was just.
Can you
Did
imagine?
this continue on for a long period of time during the night?
Yes, apparently so. Time seemed to, I don't know. But I stayed in there
Juror
that long, so it
13.
had to be going on
Can you
throughout the whole
imagine?
ordeal, which it was. So time just, it happened like that.
And all this time you're trying to hold him down.
Yeah, certain points, right.
How often would he go in and out of these moods?
Sorry, at the time spans, I couldn't really tell you, but like he would I guess if you want to put it together in time, every 30 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that, you know, and then he would have moods of being just silent, you know, and I wouldn't say anything, try to provoke him or say the wrong thing. I would be silent with him.
So you just let him be alone. Was that movie on the whole time, a long time?
It was on a pretty good period of time, yeah. And when it went off, I couldn't tell you.
Did he continue to chant from time to time?
Yes, it happened several times throughout the ordeal.
Now, when he would,
This is pure evil. I mean, literally, This is just pure evil. This is not having a mental disease or anything else other than it escalated to he would watch Exorcist 3 over and over with his victims. He'd say, let's watch a movie. And that was one of his go-to movies. Not just Exorcist 1, not part 2, but specifically a scene from Exorcist 3. And he would get into this evil trance. He actually bought yellow contacts to set the mood for himself to get into this evil mode where he would hum. He'd put his yellow contacts on, and then he'd go out and pick these guys up and get into the mojo of being evil so that he could work himself up to killing these guys. Gruesome things.
Watch the movie. Did you notice when he would go into this thing that you told us where he would really become fixed on the movie screen? What was happening? How often would that happen?
Throughout the movie, maybe every 15 or 20 minutes, and then he would turn around and try to ask me to put both of my hands behind my back, and I wouldn't, do it. I would talk to him. I'd tell him, you can trust me, you don't have to do this, and that would calm him down a little bit.
He had the knife the whole time.
Right.
He's watching the movie, and he becomes very interested in the movie.
Right.
You don't do anything, just sit there.
Just sit there and be quiet.
And then he would start conversation with you again.
Yeah, he was like you're gonna have to do this and that, Then he told me at a point I was gonna have to kill him, or he was gonna have to kill me at one point.
Were you and he drinking during this time?
No.
So he wasn't running out, bringing you out and getting beers and coming back?
No, I would have been out the window at that point.
Sure.
He would have.
Did he, when he was fixed, I'm trying to get some words to understand, was he intoxicated?
He had been drinking, but as far as being intoxicated, he was not staggering or anything of that nature.
But you know that some people, when they have too much to drink, change their moods. Was that the kind of mood changes he was having, or a different kind of mood change?
I think this was like more of an inner mood change than an alcoholic mood change.
What kind of mood?
It's like
inner mood?
Yeah, person change, not alcohol change.
What did you think about this guy? What was going through your mind as to who you were sitting next to, who was doing all these
devil?
things?
A bizarre individual, someone that was very confused at this time.
Now, there came a time when you went to the washroom again?
Right, I suggested, because he had started getting aggressive a little bit again. I suggested go to the bathroom. He let me stay in there by myself while he stayed outside the door at that time.
And what happened then?
And then I told him, I was contemplating, I was asking God, shall I make my move now? And I was gonna just jump out the window. But when I got out, for some reason, I asked, could I have another beer? Yeah.
And what did he do?
And he reaches over, he guides me over and reaches in and get a beer.
He still got you on the cuff?
Yeah. And then he tells me, I told him I want to sit in the front because it's an air conditioning. I was just going to try to jump out the window or go for the door or whatever. And because the back bedroom didn't have an air conditioner, only in the front. So I suggested we sit on the couch. I had unbuttoned my shirt to try to make him feel more at ease. And then I just sat on the couch and he just started going out of himself again. Yeah.
Going out of himself?
Yeah, he was like paying me no attention at that time.
Like he wasn't there?
Yeah, he started the chanting again and it's like just sitting there, And then I just, for some reason, I said, well, I need to go to the bathroom again. And he didn't follow me at that point. So I reached up, I got up, and then I hit him and I ran out.
So you hit him?
Right.
Did you have any other belongings there?
I have my bag right there at the end of the couch. I sit in exactly the same place I sit when I went in there.
So when you got up, he let go of your cuff to let you go to the bathroom again?
He just let me stay there. I was going to go for the window. At that point, he didn't even have the cuff. It's like I wasn't even there anymore.
And when you saw that, what'd you do?
Mm-hmm. I just seized the opportunity. I said, well, at least I'm going to die trying. I'm not just going to sit here,
What'd you do, son?
I hit him and I ran towards the door and he was right there, tried to grab me, get me back in there.
And what happened?
Then I made it outside.
So he wasn't able to bring you back in?
Bring me back in there, no.
He tried?
He tried.
And as you left that apartment, as you got away from him, I'm going to ask you again, what impressions were made on your mind by the conduct of Jeffrey Dahmer, by the actions of Jeffrey Dahmer, by the manner, expressions, and conversations of Jeffrey Dahmer that you observed? Can you Give us some words.
It's like I told the policeman that this freak, this crazy guy, was trying to hurt me. Yeah.
Did you run out of the building?
Yes, I did.
Did you summon help?
Yes,
Milwaukee Police Department?
that's correct.
Did they come back there with you to the apartment?
Right.
Did you eventually go back into the apartment with the Milwaukee police officers?
Yes.
And then he was arrested.
Right.
You gave a statement to the Milwaukee police a few hours later?
Yeah. That's you could say a few hours. Yeah.
This is how he got caught. This is where they found all the bodies. Heads in the fridge, parts in the fridge, barrels of acid. This man literally is a hero, and he saved himself. So, that was a good question, Juror 13. Before this, when you asked what happened to him now, when I pull it up, you're going to say, I'm not surprised.
Mr. Edwards,
He looks like he wants to cry, right?
through your lawyer, I had you come to Wisconsin to testify.
That's correct.
Other than your expenses, you're not being paid anything,
No.
correct? Is that true?
That's true.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you.
Mr. McCann, how long do we anticipate the cross-examination of this witness will
I'd say
take?
at least half an hour, Your Honor.
Okay. That being the case, I think it's appropriate.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what they were going to say, that they anticipated the case to be. Wow, man. Yeah, it does. I saw him on talk shows after all this happened, and he was, a lot healthier and bigger. He looked like he had, gotten past this, but I'm going to share where he is in 2022. That's the last time, and I'll read the article quickly. Hopefully it doesn't get me doxxed somehow, because so far every freaking serial killer, they want to take parts of it down. But what are you going to do? You learn. All right, so let's look at this, and hopefully it's okay. I'll just quickly. So this is him now. He looks terrible. And ABC News, police in Mississippi recognize him from the media, and he was extradited there in connection with the SA of a 14-year-old girl after he returned to Milwaukee, obviously where he came from. He was sued. Edwards sued the city for $5 million for not following up on tips about Dahmer before his July escape, according to the outlet, but it was thrown out of court. So he didn't even get anything, which is kind of good because he ended up like this. And they go in to talk about the neighbor Glenda that was rebuffed by city's officials. She was the one that was trying to get him caught as well. She was the neighbor. She smelled all the body parts. And she was one of the major players in this. So Edwards was not a part of the later class action suit that awarded restitution to Dahmer's victim's family. And his former attorney thinks he knows why. My guess is he wanted no part of it. He said he didn't want anything that reminded him of what happened. It was just too much. I don't blame him. This guy added he really presented himself as straightforward until you touched that nerve, and he became completely different. Today, here it is. Edwards is 63 years old, and this guy has lost touch with him. I have no doubt that Tracy was pushed over the edge, and I only hope for him to survive. His life was completely destroyed. I 100% believe that. I don't know if it even shared. Yeah, I did. I stopped sharing it. You saw him. So you can see what happened to this guy. And you could imagine that would happen to you. I mean, I don't know if he went over there and had some kind of homosexual tendencies, whatever they want to call that, gay tendencies. He liked men in a way, whatever it was. It's really hard back then to admit that because everyone was against you, right? It's like you did something wrong. So he definitely was haunted by the whole thing. I'm sure Dahmer did come on to him. and then he just became pure evil. So yeah, that's really bad. I want to go over the crime scene investigator, because I want you to see the pictures that they show, and then I will be done for the night. I will come back with a part 2 because I really want to play more things. I want to sit here for a couple of hours and go over more testimony. I want to see Dahmer talking, which I think I'm actually still going to do that, because I want to show you the crime scene investigator, which we don't have to watch all of it. And I want you to see Dahmer talking. Yeah, I want you to see Jeff speaking. So I'm going to go over these two. It seems like I still have some people here. Y'all are hanging in. I'm good. My family's eating right now. I'm not super hungry, so I'll eat after. And yeah, absolutely, Juror 13. You're welcome here anytime. Ask any questions. Hang out with me. Come back, hang out with me, and do part 2. So I'm not sitting here by myself talking to myself. That'd be great. Yeah, very sad. All right, I want to show you the crime scene investigator. No, Carly, I'm not doing an open panel right now, but I will do one. I will do one with the Dahmer stuff. That would be great. That's a good idea. Oh, you guys are back. Is Greeno's channel over? Is the movie or the video over? Is his Friday night? I think he was talking about YouTube making money on it, right? If you can let me know in the comments. Let's go over the crime scene investigators, and I want to show you some of that stuff on there. So yeah, that would be great if you guys would come back with me and do that. And I really want Sadie's mama to come up and talk with me. She knows more than I do. So she's going to like take over my show. And Juror 13, you're welcome to as well, or you could just sit back and relax like if you're fishing. All right, let me take a look at this one and see if I can find some of the crime scene stuff.
Please repeat. You solemnly swear all the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Please be seated, sir. And sir, would you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Donald Yockey, Yockey.
And how were you employed?
For the City of West Dallas Police Department.
And how long have you been so employed?
19 years.
And what rank have you attained?
I'm a lieutenant.
And were you so employed on April 4th, 1988?
Yes, I was.
And did you have occasion on that date to come in contact with the person you now know as Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes, I did.
Can you identify him by where he's seated in the courtroom and what he's wearing?
Very well.
Okay. What were the circumstances of that meeting?
Our department had received a complaint from Mr. Flowers that he had been robbed while he was at Mr. Dahmer's house.
And how did you know it was Mr. Dahmer's house?
Mr. Flowers had taken another officer there the night before and pointed out the house.
And how would Mr. Dahmer have learned about this fact?
At that time, he wasn't home, and a referral notice was left at his house telling him that we wanted to talk to him.
And did he arrive at the West Dallas Police Department?
Yes, he did.
And when he came there, did you place him in custody?
No, we did not.
What did you do?
We talked to him about the complaint that Mr. Flowers had made.
And what did Mr. Dahmer tell you?
He basically admitted to everything that Mr. Flowers had said, except the part about taking his money and his chain, gold chain.
Did he admit to drugging Mr. Flowers?
No, he denied doing that.
Well, why don't you tell me as closely as you can exactly what Mr. Dahmer said?
He had stated that...
Do you need to refer to your notes?
Yes, if I may.
Okay. Do you have an objection?
Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
He had stated that he had met Mr. Flowers at a bar on Saturday night, early Sunday morning. And he saw that this party was having trouble getting his car started, so Jeff said that he invited him to his house. Once they got to the house, he started drinking, mentioned Bailey's Irish Cream and some coffee. Eventually they were drinking Bailey's Irish Cream straight out of the bottle. They both finally fell asleep. Mr. Dahmer stated that they were both very drunk. Mr. Dahmer stated that he woke up on Sunday morning around 9 a.m. and he wanted to get Mr. Flowers out of the house before his grandmother woke up. He didn't want to upset his grandmother.
Wow, he's going back here, right? He's going back.
He stated that Mr. Flowers could barely stand, and he looked in Mr. Flowers' wallet and he saw that he
When
only
was
had
it that Mr. Flowers could barely stand? When during his discussion did he say that took place? Would that have been the morning afterwards?
That was the morning at 9 a.m., yes.
Okay.
That Mr. Flowers was still pretty drunk.
Okay, what happened then?
He said that he only saw $20 bills in Mr. Flowers' wallet, and he knew he wanted to take Mr. Flowers to the bus, and he knew the bus driver would not change a 20, so Mr. Dahmer gave him $1, walked him to the bus stop on 57th and Lincoln, and waited with him for the bus to come and made sure he got on the bus. And that is the last time he saw him.
And did he continue that the reason he walked him to the bus stop was to make sure he got on the
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened here. So I'm going to stop this for a second and come back here and reshare it because I don't know why it stopped. All right, let's get back on here.
Was Mr. Dahmer at all hesitant when he told you this story?
Not at all.
Did you believe him?
Here you go.
Yes, I do.
That one's cool.
At any time when you were talking with him,
Oh,
did he give incoherent answers to your questions?
No.
Did he give irrational answers to your questions?
No, he did not.
Did you believe he was the victim of delusional thinking?
No.
Did you ever think he was hearing voices?
No.
Did you ever believe he was having hallucinations?
No.
About how long do you think you talked with him?
20 minutes to 30 minutes, no more.
all right. I'm going to fast forward a little and see if we can see some of the crime scene.
During your
This is like an
19
hour
years
long,
of being a police officer, detective, and now lieutenant, have you had the occasion to observe folks who
Come on, let's go back here.
States regarding the offense, Dahmer states that he offered the Oriental victim $50 to pose for some pictures. He has no idea how old the victim is because,
This is
quote,
Conarac.
it's so hard to tell, end of quote. At no time did he ask how old he was or how far he was in school. Does not recall the victim telling him he was a freshman. That's in quote, freshman. He went with the victim to his apartment, that being Dahmer's apartment. Once there, he took 2 photos of the victim, but the photos were not sexually explicit. He and the victim were drinking out of the same coffee, out of the same cup, while they were in the apartment. He, meaning Dahmer, had put coffee and Bailey's Irish Cream into the cup. The cup is the same cup which he always uses to drink coffee from. He also places about 4 of his prescribed medication in with the coffee. He does not wash the coffee cup because he is generally the only person to drink from the cup. When he shared the coffee mixed with the Bailey's with the victim, he did not add any of his pills. States that in no way did he intentionally drug the victim. If the victim had any of the drug in his system, it was because of previous use of the cup and not washing the cup. He denies ever touching the victim's penis, even while having the victim pose for the photographs. Denies kissing the victim's stomach. Questions how the victim could be so coherent if the victim was supposedly drugged. He was fine when he left the apartment. Gave the boy $50, and he had the $50 when he left the apartment. And then it's signed Jeffrey Dahmer, dated 9/27/88, 4:55 a.m. And that was signed after I read this verbatim to Mr. Dahmer with him reading along.
Thereafter, did you undertake to secure his consent to return to his apartment and secure items of evidence?
That would have been prior to the written statement. I had talked to him, but had not taken a written statement.
All right, so you can hear his modus operandi over and over, right? We're hearing this before.
Can you tell us what that is?
Exhibit number 61 is a typewritten form which I typed up on September 27th, 1988, after asking Mr. Dahmer for consent to search his apartment for the items which would be needed for evidentiary value in this case.
Did he sign that consent?
Yes, he did.
Is the hour entered, the date, time that it was signed, the consent was signed or prepared at least?
Yes, directly under Mr.
Most of the medications, I don't know if they go over the list, but I know a lot of the medications were sleeping pills, anxiety pills, actually pretty well-known names of the medications that we hear today. The hair, yes. This is what I like about watching these videos and making fun of the people.
Dahmer's signature is typed in September 27th, 1988, 3:05 a.m.
How long had you talked to Mr. Dahmer after you returned to the police administration building and he was brought into your vice squad offices? For how long did that conversation take place?
Approximately 20 minutes.
Was it at that time then, did you go out to follow up on the consent?
Yes, after he had signed the consent form.
Do you recall if you secured a key from him or from the manager at some point?
Mr. Dahmer accompanied us. He supplied the key and went with us to the apartment.
And when you, where was that apartment building?
It was located at 808 North 24th Street, apartment number 204.
And he accompanied you then into the apartment, particular apartment when you went there?
Yes, he did.
And did you, or who was with you? The same team of officers, if you recollect?
Officers, Enters and Temp, who had initiated the investigation, along with my supervisor at that time, who was Lieutenant Lawrence Gottiger.
And did you undertake while at the apartment to search for certain items to which he had consented for a search to be conducted?
It wasn't a search per se. Mr. Dahmer told us where these items would be found in the apartment.
Read to the jury the particular items for which you were looking.
He completely cooperated.
Number one item would be 2 photographs of one SS, the victim in this offense. Item number 2 would be 1 cup, brown in color, which was the cup which SS stated they had drank the coffee and Irish cream mixture from. Number 3 was 1 bottle of Bailey's Irish Cream. Number 4, prescription drugs. And number 5, 1 Polaroid camera.
Did you thereafter return to did you also pick up some other drugs while you were there?
Yes, some prescription drugs were confiscated.
Did you thereafter return to the building, the police administration building, with those items and cause inventory forms to be prepared by yourself and file those items with the property room at the Milwaukee Police Department?
Yes, I did.
Did you see his attorney? The female I was talking about earlier. He dumped on her every bit of information.
Do you have those inventory, a copy of those inventory forms with you at the stand?
Yes, I do.
If it'll save any time, I'll stipulate all of it. Let council do it all.
All right, I'm gonna share the crime scene investigator, and then we'll listen to Dahmer actually speak. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to all of it. I want to watch so much more. We're 2 hours in, and all of you are still here. That's awesome. I'm not that boring. I thought it was going to be more boring than this, but I'm glad it's not. Not that I think it's boring, of course, but you know.
No, the best we have is
All right, go back a little tiny bit so we can hear.
gave 3 prescriptions. One is 215.91 for 15 tablets.
Was that 215 or 25?
I'm sorry, 2591 was filled at a South Side pharmacy. And then 322.91, 60 tablets filled at the downtown area pharmacy. And then 524.91, 60 tablets filled at a downtown area pharmacy.
And just also previously marked was a exhibit 20 showing the front portion of Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment after it was empty. And it shows the front door again.
Yes, it does.
It also shows an additional house lock on the front door.
Yes.
How did that come about to be there?
After the Milwaukee Police Department emptied the apartment out, there was a hasp and a padlock put on that door while we were holding it, any possible additional searches, and also the management requested that we do that. The padlock was then secured onto that door, and to this day, that hasp is still on that door.
All right, and that was not there on the morning of July 23rd, 1990?
No, that was added later that day or early the next day.
No, I'll leave it there.
Oh, good, thanks.
I have no further questions, thank you. Oh, Judge, I would move state's exhibits that have been marked in February.
Okay, so I thought that was going to be a little bit more.
I want to look at the one with the locks and the doors.
There we go. A little bit more.
Okay, now, that's exhibit number 19, right?
Yes.
Which door there's a whole bunch of doors here. Which is the door if you walked in the apartment in the hall? Which door? Right
You
here.
see those
How many
locks?
How many locks are there?
There's 2 locks. There's a common entry lock or in the passage, and then there's the deadbolt lock.
Okay, now, if I'm inside, give me one inside with that door closed. Do you have one?
No, the best we have is this door here. You can see open, and you can see the locks along the inside.
Okay, so in other words, what you're telling me is that if I look at this one, 19, I see, is this the one you showed me just a moment?
Yes.
This one, 19, shows me, point to the 2 locks.
Right here.
All right, on the right side, you're showing me underneath where it says 2-1, there must be 3 there. There's 2 if you're outside looking at it.
That's correct.
And on the inside, if I'm looking at it, I'm looking at this same door. How many do I see there?
There's 2 on the inside, and then there's a hasp up here on the outside.
Okay, now, as I'm standing there, I'm looking and I open up that door, how many locks do I see across the hallway?
3 locks on that one across the hallway.
So here's Tracy Edwards, who's asked a question of how many locks he sees. He opens up the door to get out of there. There's 3 on Dahmer's door,
No, there's 2 on Dahmer's door.
but there's a deadbolt glass.
No,
That goes with one of the 2 of them?
there's only 2 on Dahmer's door. This one here and this one up here, and the deadbolt. Just those 2.
And tell me what this is then over here. I go your finger with. What's that thing right up there?
Yes, yeah. That was the hasp that we put on, that the Milwaukee Police put on later that day.
When that door's open, how many locks are across the hall?
Across the hall,
Objection, immaterial.
It's not immaterial to talk about what's on a picture that's been received. Sorry.
However, it isn't repetitious because I thought we just asked the witness that question a little while ago and he gave the same answer.
Well, do you mind if I have him do it one more time?
I do.
Okay, I won't ask you to speak for yourself. The fake alarm system, when was that put in? Show me that. Show us where that is. When was that put in, do you know?
I don't know when it was put in. It was purchased on January 18th, 1991.
Okay, did you see the boxes anywhere in the apartment that from whence that fake camera came from? Were they in the apartment when you?
I don't remember seeing the box of that. There was some box for some other alarm parts, but I don't know if that box for that camera was there.
What other alarm parts?
Well, there was another photograph that was introduced,
Pull it up and show us.
which shows the alarm setup. And there were some boxes from that. That's the Black & Decker home security alarm system.
When was that purchased, those alarms?
That we don't know. We checked the area Black & Decker company. We're unable to get a receipt, and we never did pinpoint the exact date of that.
But you found the boxes that those alarms came in?
Those boxes were found in his apartment. That's correct.
Where?
I couldn't tell you that. I know they were found in the apartment, but I don't know where in the
So
apartment.
he didn't dispose of those boxes?
No, he did not.
How about the receipts that you found? Where'd you find those receipts in his apartment? Where were these receipts found?
They were all found in various spots. So there was none of them that was found in the exact same spots.
So he kept receipts of things that he used for what?
Well, for the dummy alarm system, or for the dummy surveillance camera, for the freezer. He had several other papers in there.
Are his names on those receipts?
Yes, there are.
Was his name?
Yes, his name is on those receipts.
Okay. Now, we heard about all of these drugs that he was buying. And I see from what counsel was reading from that she gave me to use 18 different times on here, right?
Well, regarding that one doctor, yes.
Okay. The first murder in Milwaukee, the first murder on the information, the one that's charged, was what date?
It would be James Dockstader, I believe, was January of 1988.
He had had 8 prescriptions of that drug of 30 tablets each, or 240 such tablets purchased in his name prior to that murder, correct?
He probably had more because he had these 3 up here also, which were from 1986.
340, 370, 400.
About 415 he probably had purchased before that time.
And how many more did he purchase after the Dockstader?
I'd have to add this up real quick. If you give me a minute.
Sure.
If my math is correct, 555 tablets after that date.
Was the aquarium that was in the fish tank in his apartment at the time that you were there in the morning of the arrest, was that in operating condition?
Yes, would you like me to show you that photo?
Let me see it, please. Was that an operating?
Yes, the fish tank was operating and it's on top of the black table, which has been mentioned earlier.
Were there live fish in it?
Yes, there were live fish in there.
Now, does this picture show the amount of empty cans of beer that were found in the living room of that apartment?
It shows some empty cans of beer. There was some in some other areas too.
Well, how many is that shown in that picture?
I see 6 empty cans of Budweiser beer, or at least they're opened on top. I don't know if they're all empty.
Were there other empty cans of beer that were found in that living room?
Yes, there was.
How many more? Empty ones.
Yes, that artwork was chilling for the officers. It was actually really dark if you look at it.
There's another 2 or 3 across the room by that freezer there,
There's some
and
pictures
I believe there
you
was
can
some more on
see.
the floor which do not show up on these photographs.
I just don't want to
Different
get
brands though, weren't they?
video
Yes.
taken down if I go to a
So you
video.
don't know for sure how
That I
long any
can't
of them
show.
have been there, obviously.
No, I do not.
So how many are we talking about at the most, assuming all of them were drank within that earlier evening, or any time within the 12 hours before the picture was taken? How many would it be, about 10, 12 empties?
Objection calls for speculation as to how soon they would have been drunk.
Yeah, look at the picture again when they show it to Sadie's mama and everybody. One of the officers that walked in said the most chilling thing, even though they saw they smelled the smell of death in the apartment, was that picture. It's actually just like an evil, creepy feel to it. His fish there were alive fish, but there was also dead ones, and it was gross and dirty like the rest of the house. So in part 2, I'm going to find a video that I can show that I don't get kicked off or my video kicked down after all this time of filming. And I also want to show Tracy Edwards what happened even further. The guy that got Dahmer caught less than a year ago. I see more things that I can report about. So yeah, let's watch this and then we'll listen to Dahmer crazy in court.
Just see. How many empty cans of beer cans are there that were found in the living room according to the pictures that were taken by the Milwaukee Police Department?
Okay, according to those pictures, there's 8 or 9 cans, but there's that's these pictures. There are some other pictures that show some additional cans of beer,
How about
empty
in the
cans.
bedroom? Tell us how many were in the bedroom?
I don't remember how many. I know there was additional empty cans of beer recovered.
Is there any liquor, any rum, any whiskey or anything found in that living room?
No, I believe there was an empty bottle or near empty bottle of rum that was recovered.
Where was that recovered?
I don't remember exactly. I believe it's the bedroom, but I'm not 100% positive.
Okay, so you don't know.
No.
How about, I know that. Is there a window in that living room?
A what?
A window in that living room?
Yes, there is a window in the living room.
You look out of it, what would you see? What does it look onto?
There's another building off to that window would be facing west, and there's another building to the west of the apartment.
And if one wanted privacy in that living room, how would one secure it? Are there shades, blinds, drapes, or what?
There are some curtains there. There's the window and there's some curtains.
Is that the condition that the curtains?
I just wanted to pause it really quick so you can see that weird picture that he's got up there. Yeah, he's got some really weird things in his apartment, and I definitely want to show it. It looks like good and evil almost, or just evil with the black and the red and the yellow, like something dark, like maybe hell. I know there's an explanation about that, but I don't know exactly. And then if you look back in the back there, look at the picture here. It looks like a man, like maybe a naked man, and his body. Very like subtle hints about Dahmer and who he was. Now, mind you, his dad and stepmom would come over and, oh, nice apartment, Jeff. You're doing good. But he wasn't doing good at all. Actually, another thing that was creepy, and you can't see it because they got pictures, but was this lava lamp. It was just going and going and going. And I think it might have been red or like a orange. And one of the officers said it was like almost like a blood. So I'd like to see those pictures, or actually not pictures. I want to see video.
Were in at the time those pictures were taken?
Yes, it is.
Had anybody opened them?
Not to the best of my recollection.
Would one be able to see outside, or would you have to?
It'd be very difficult at that time of night. You could see out there certainly during the day a lot better.
My question is, was there anything blocking the view of someone if they wanted to look in and they were high enough to look in? In other words, the curtains were open.
Well, there's a stand there, and there's a large plant on top of there, and the window is divided.
In other words, but there's no other drapes that have to be open, or curtains or shades to be raised?
No, as far as I can see, just the one set of drapes or curtains.
And it's clear, is it not, that one of the things that the police department does when they come upon a crime scene is make sure that nobody changes anything in that crime scene until it's secured, until all the proper photos are taken and all the evidence is picked up.
That's absolutely correct.
That's all. Thanks, Lieutenant.
Redirect.
No further questions.
Huey, step down, sir. Thank you.
All right, now we get to hear Dahmer. The plant does look like a crazy sculpture. I was looking at it real close. I'm like, it looked like some like evil thing. I couldn't tell, but I want to get video of that so we can see it better. All right, let's listen to this guy speak, and he speaks so many times. This is one of many. This guy just doesn't shut up. Sorry about that. I thought I had it. But let me, you probably heard some of that, and I am going to share it now. I'm just, I've got a lot of videos up, so let's get this on, and let's hear this guy speak the one of many times.
Your Honor, it is over now. This has never been a case of trying to get free. I didn't ever want freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself. This was a case to tell the world that I did what I did not for reasons of hate. I hated no one. I knew I was sick or evil or both. Now I believe I was sick. The doctors have told me about my sickness, and now I have some peace. I know how much harm I have caused. I tried to do the best I could after the arrest to make amends, but no matter what I did, I could not undo the terrible harm I have caused. My attempt to help identify the remains was the best that I could do, and that was hardly anything. I feel so bad for what I did to those poor families, and I understand their rightful hate. I know I will be in prison for the rest of my life. I know that I will have to turn to God to help me get through each day. I should have stayed with God. I tried and failed and created a Holocaust.
This guy.
Thank God there will be no more harm that I can do. I believe that only the Lord Jesus Christ can save me from my sins. I have instructed Mr. Boyle to end this matter. I do not want to contest the civil case. I've told Mr. Boyle to try and finalize them if he can. If there is ever any money, I want it to go to the victims' families. I've talked to Mr. Boyle about other things that might help ease my conscience in some way of coming up with ideas on how to make some amends to these families, and I will work with him on that. I want to return to Ohio and quickly end that matter so that I can put all of this behind me and then come right back here to do my sentence. I decided to go through this trial for a number of reasons. One of the reasons was to let the world know that these were not hate crimes. I wanted the world in Milwaukee, which I deeply hurt, to know the truth of what I did. I didn't want unanswered questions. All the questions have now been answered. I wanted to find out just what it was that caused me to be so bad and evil. But most of all, Mr. Boyle and I decided that maybe there was a way for us to tell the world that if there are people out there with these disorders, maybe they can get some help before they end up being hurt or hurting someone. I think the trial did that. I take all the blame for what I did. I hurt many people. The judge in my earlier case tried to help me, and I refused his help, and he got hurt by what I did. I hurt those policemen in the Conorak matter, and I shall ever regret causing them to lose their jobs, and I hope and pray that they can get their jobs.
Do you hear this? This makes me mad when he says he's praying for the police officers that lost their job and he hopes they can get their job back. That's what he's worried about, this guy. Talking about embracing God. This guy hasn't known God a day in his life. All right.
Jobs back because I know they did their best and I just plain fooled them. For that, I am so sorry. I know I hurt my probation officer who was really trying to help me. I am so sorry for that and sorry for everyone else that I have hurt. I've hurt my mother and father and stepmother. I love them all so very much. I hope that they will find the same peace I am looking for. Mr. Boyle's associates, Wendy and Ellen, have been wonderful to me, helping me through this worst of all times. I want to publicly thank Mr. Boyle. He didn't need to take this case, but when I asked him to help me find the answers and to help others, if I could, he stayed with me and went way overboard in trying to help me. Mr. Boyle and I agreed that it was never a matter of trying to get off. It was only a matter of which place I would be housed the rest of my life, not for my comfort, but for trying to study me in the hopes of helping me and learning to help others who might have problems. I know I will be in prison. I pledge to talk to doctors who might be able to find some answers. In closing, I just want to say that I hope God has forgiven me. I know society will never be able to forgive me. I know the families of the victims will never be able to forgive me for what I have done. I promise I will pray each day to ask for their forgiveness when the hurt goes away, if ever. I have seen their tears, and if I could give my life right now to bring their loved ones back, I would do it. I am so very sorry. Your Honor, I know that you are about to sentence me. I ask for no consideration. I want you to know that I've been treated perfectly by the deputies who have been in your court and the deputies who work the jail. The deputies have treated me very professionally, and I want everyone to know that. They have not given me special treatment. Here is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, of who I am the worst. But for that very reason I was shown mercy, so that in me, the worst of sinners, Christ Jesus might display his unlimited patience as an example for those who would believe in him and receive eternal life. Now to the King, eternal, immortal, invisible, the only God, be honor and glory forever and ever. I know my time in prison will be terrible, but I deserve whatever I get because of what I have done. Thank you, Your Honor, and I am prepared for your sentence, which I know will be the maximum. I ask for no consideration.
There is nothing else from the defense relative to this matter, Your Honor. Thank you.
It now becomes the duty of the court to impose sentence in this case. And one of my obligations to set forth on the record the basis for the sentence imposed. In doing that, I'm required to consider the seriousness of the offenses, the needs of the community for protection from the defendant, as well as the needs of the defendant. In doing this, there are some observations that I would like to make. You know, I've spent 3 weeks listening, and now it's my time to say a few things. One of the things is that real people have been involved in this case and have been affected by it. I thought, you know, the first family statement that I got, which went down and said a little bit about the feelings of each of the family members, I think conveyed that it's real people that have been affected by the crimes that have been committed here. And that doesn't go to just one family, it goes to all the families. But I thought that one was particularly stood out in my mind with the way it was done. However, the victims' families are not the only real people involved in this case. There's the defendant's family. And, you know, this is a court that handles criminal matters on a regular basis. Right now, we're designated as a violent crime court, so it's not unusual for us to see not just the families of victims, but also the families of defendant. And you know, time and time again, you see a situation where the defendant comes from a good family, but committed a horrible crime. We must sentence the defendant for committing that crime, knowing full well that the family of the defendant will also be adversely affected and perhaps did nothing for which they should be hurt any more than the victims' families did anything for which they should be hurt.
I don't understand why they're giving sympathy to him at
A number
all.
of you have heard me use the expression before.
There's
I wish I had that magic button
Courtroom full of
that I could put that
victims.
things back in place. But I don't have the power to bring people back to life. You know, that's in the hands of somebody else. I can't change what's happened. What I have to do is acknowledge the facts as they are and proceed to a meaningful sentence. We heard a great deal of talk in this case about mental disease. The jury found that a mental disease did not exist. I think correctly so. What I noticed is that many of the participants, including both lawyers, had difficulty using mental disease as a term separate from mental illness. Many times those terms were, I think, unconsciously used interchangeably. Mental disease is a word of art, a legal word of art, defined in the statute book. Some mental conditions or mental illness, by definition, do not constitute a mental disease. And had it become necessary for the court to rule, it would be the ruling of this court that a paraphilia, as a matter of definition, is not a mental disease, as that term is defined in our statutes. One of the things that was particularly significant to me when we had our psychiatric and psychological experts on the stand, and they were talking about, was it DSM-3R, that thick book that we had, was that when this term paraphilia was coined, it was coined to replace sexual deviant. And it was done so because they were carving out from the definition homosexuality, because there had been a change in public attitude in regard to that particular situation. It seems to me that in doing so, what the people defining the term were trying to do, not necessarily they were trying to conform to Wisconsin law, but they were trying to create a term that fits that exception that we have in our statute, which says that an abnormality manifested only by repeated criminal or otherwise antisocial conduct does not constitute a mental disease. You see, what the statute's doing is taking some things that constitute a mental condition and say, as we use the term mental disease, that's not included within that language. I say that because I think I owe it to my profession, having heard all the testimony that I've heard, to set forth on the record what my views are as far as that particular situation is concerned. It never became necessary for me specifically to rule on it.
I'm so glad that he's not.
As to the seriousness of the offense,
mental disease.
I've listened to the testimony the way everybody else has listened to the testimony, the way our 14 jurors listened to the testimony, and I too have a view of what's going on, or what was going on as far as Mr. Dahmer is concerned. First of all, every witness that examined him told us he was an intelligent man, probably superior intelligence. I agreed that he used that intelligence to manipulate people. I don't think there's any question about it. I believe what we had was a homosexual who could not accept the fact that he was a homosexual.
Agreed.
That he from time to time involved himself in homosexual activities, and there was never a problem in a situation that he could walk away from and remain, in effect, anonymous. But once he brought somebody to his home, he could no longer remain anonymous, and therefore he was caught. There's one way to avoid that: destroy the evidence. It's a vicious way to destroy the evidence, but that's my view of what was going on. In terms of what happened to these people, gosh, I was horrified. You know, when we asked the questions in jury selection about, how you react to some of these things, fortunately, nobody gets to ask the judge that question. Nobody gets to ask the judge how you feel about horror movies, because I'll tell you what I do. I turn them off. That's one of the powers that you have when you control the television set.
Not me, but this is a horror movie, a real life one.
I can go into other things in my background that, well, let's talk about it. There was a time in my life that I made a living in a packing house. And I was a little squeamish in terms of dealing with animals. Gosh knows I got to be squeamish when we talk about doing some of those same things to human beings, real people. I saw Dr. Fosdale on the witness stand. Here's a physician. I don't know if any of you noticed it, but I noticed it, that he got very, very uncomfortable when he was talking about what was done to these human beings. People are looking to me to provide a measure of protection to the community, and I don't think there's only one way that protection can be provided, and that is to see that this defendant never again has the opportunity to walk the streets of our community as a free man. That's part of judicial discretion, I guess, but it really in this case doesn't require a whole lot of discretion. I can't imagine anybody else coming up with any other conclusion. And I think that's been acknowledged by both the defense attorney and the defendant himself. As to treatment, the needs of the defendant, that's something in what the court does in sentencing that's not within the discretion of the court, but it is within the discretion of the institution where he will be going. As I listened to the parade of psychiatric and psychological experts, I didn't hear anybody say that he was a totally normal individual. I think the opinion is universal that he has some significant problems, and if he can benefit, or society can benefit from treatment or study, I think that should happen within the institutional system, and there's no reason why it can't. Mr. Dahmer made reference to religion. Anybody have any idea how many defendants find religion when they come before this court for sentencing? Do they sincerely find it? I don't know. How do I determine that? Some of them keep that newfound sense of religion all the way till that door over there. Some keep it a lot longer. You know, that's something between God and Mr. Dahmer. And if indeed he's found religion, I hope that he keeps it, and I hope it helps him for the rest of his life, which is going to be spent in one of our penal institutions. Mr. McCann, is it the first two counts on which there's a habitual, I don't have the complaint in front of me. Is that correct?
It actually attaches to all of them, Your Honor.
All counts, but only the first two.
No, it attaches to all 15. I addressed specifically the first two because that would add 10 years to what would be the minimum parole release.
And on the others, I have the discretion because it's under the new statute. The court, clearly, he falls within the habitual criminality statute, and the court makes that finding. As to count one, the court will impose the mandatory life sentence plus an additional 10 years on the habitual criminality. Count two, life imprisonment plus 10 years consecutive to count one. Count three, life imprisonment with the date of parole eligibility 70 years from the inception of that particular sentence. I don't have all the numbers that I can't work it out, but it'll be 70 years from the beginning of that sentence, which will be consecutive to count two. Count four, life imprisonment with a parole eligibility to be 70 years from the commencement of that sentence, consecutive. Where am I at on the numbers? Somebody has.
That judge looks upset. He looks like he's getting upset while he's reading that.
Madam Reporter, what was the last? I should check
definitely
this off on here. So.
Started out being like neutral, but you can
Like
tell he's
four was the last one. Okay.
getting
Count
rattled.
5, life imprisonment, parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 4. Count 6, life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 5. Count 7, life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 6. Count 8, life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 7. Count 9, life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 8. Count 10, life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 9. Count 11, life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 10. Count 12, life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 11. Count 13,
Tell he's getting upset now.
life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 12. Count 14, life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 13. Count 15, life imprisonment with parole eligibility to be 70 years after the inception of that sentence to be consecutive to count 14. I believe I have, and I intended to follow the recommendation of the state. I could have said something different, which would have had the same impact. I really see nobody gains anything by just to say more and more years. The important point is that the sentence is structured in such a way that this defendant will never again see freedom. That is owed to this community in order to protect the community, as well as acknowledgement of the seriousness of the offenses. Those are the reasons. The sentence, of course, is to the state prison system. One thing I didn't provide, all of these sentences are consecutive to the time he's presently serving. There are appellate rights. Mr. Boyle, you'll be reviewing with your client his appellate rights.
I'd like to indicate to the court that they will be signed in proper form. The part that will be checked as required is that he is undecided. That's only to preserve the right to move it along the proper way. The final decision will be made within 20 days after we had let some settlement here. I don't anticipate there will be an appeal. I only say that because that's what my client wanted me to say, but I still want deliberation on that decision, and I want to make that a part of the record. Lastly, Your Honor, I am required to ask the court on the record for a 10-minute contact visit with his mother, stepmother, and father, and I would ask if the court would grant that.
Are they present?
They're in some hallway. I didn't know
they're present in the building, is what you're saying.
I understand they are. I have not seen
Any
them.
objection to that, Mr. Chairman?
I join with the request.
So ordered.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything further for the court?
No, please, the court, thank you.
Court's in recess.
All right, so I think we made it to a good stopping point. We'll talk about this now. So that was good. That was good. I haven't watched this in a long time, and I wasn't able to watch it, all of this part by myself recently. I did catch up on documentaries and everything. But yeah, I didn't get to watch this stuff. And okay, so number one, I think there was no death penalty because he did cooperate. He did plead guilty, but that he had by reason of insanity, basically. Again, I don't know if Milwaukee has a death penalty. I can probably look that up real quick. But I think he definitely gave them all the information they need. So I'm actually surprised that they even had a trial. Thank God they did, because if anybody knows the Chris Watts case, people are still speculating about that. He family annihilator, right? He's a family annihilator. He annihilated his family, and then because he just went to trial, gave them all the information they needed, they didn't put the death penalty on. But people still, is it 5 years later recently, they still think Nicole Kessinger was at the house, that she had something to do with it. She was communicating with him that morning and other times about the murder. Now, conspiracy theories, maybe she caught wind of it at some point. You can see by my my hesitation that if they had those cell phone records, they had all of them, they would have seen any communication, any pings that she was there. They wouldn't have let her off. There's no freaking way she would have been off. So, if anybody thinks that Nicole Kessinger was there during the okay, so during the Chris Watts case or during the murders, let me know. But here it is. So capital punishment was outlawed in Wisconsin since 1853. So there you go. There's the answer. There was no death penalty available, and that's why. So otherwise, yeah, the brain issue. Yeah, I think they did use. I think they did study his brain. I think Lyle Dahmer, his dad. Let me see. Yeah, I think his dad let them use Dahmer's brain for studying. And if I am correct, they, besides using it, I'm looking right now. So Jeffrey Dahmer's mom desperately wanted his brain to be examined and used for science. So it actually wasn't his dad. If you watch any of the documentaries, his mom was in complete denial about her son. She essentially wasn't around for a lot of his life. She was working or pretty absent. And then after that, she moved out on the dad and left her son. So she got a lot of phone calls. You're welcome, Sadie's mama. She got a lot of phone calls afterwards, and she at her work and wherever she was. So she changed her name back to her maiden name and didn't use Dahmer. So she was desperate to find out what happened because she did not want to blame herself or her DNA, whatever. Yeah, we wonder, right? We should find out if anybody's desperate, Greeno, to examine your brain for science. Never know. So Joyce Dahmer was his mom's name, and she requested that Dahmer's brain be reserved in hopes of having it studied by scientists at Fresno State University in California. She wanted to determine, here it is, if it was a biological factor influenced by his violent actions. She wanted to make sure nature versus nurture, right? And we can see what happened now. There's probably a video on it, but let's see. I've seen studies on this by serial killers because he's not the only one. And I think the only thing that they can really tell, and it's not even a serial killer, it's an actual murder, is the frontal lobe is a little bit different. I believe it's smaller. It shrunk. So I think that's it's just a hamster. Yeah. I think Dahmer's was a hamster. His frontal lobe at that point. People that murder. Okay, so we have football players. There's a couple of football players that murder. And when they did that, they checked their brain to make sure that the damage that they did during football, that it wasn't related to that. And they did get a study saying that their frontal lobe is smaller. But other than that, they can't really tell. They honestly can't tell the difference between Jeffrey Dahmer's brain and, Aaron Hernandez's brain, let's say. I don't know if you know Aaron Hernandez, but that was the football player that also didn't want to be gay, and he took out his rage on killing people and trying to be a rich gangster, essentially. So, yeah, if that answers your question, Sadie's mama, they used his brain for research, and they didn't really get much out of it. So, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it's definitely coming up on 3 hours, and I could probably go another 2 with all my clips and answering questions. But yeah, the frontal lobe. I don't have a small frontal lobe. Yeah, but the ones that did damage definitely do. And Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, chronic traumatic brain injury. A lot of people seem to kind of know about that a little bit. Yes, brain injury from sports, CTE. That's right. Thanks, Miracle Heart. So we are gonna do part 2 on this because I have a lot of leftover clips that I wanted to watch. I have the victims' families that read the impact statements and a lot of other questions. I want to talk about Tracy, the guy that got him caught, and where he is now, and some other things I kind of want to get into. But yeah, I didn't expect to go this long, and now we've gone really long. So thanks everybody for coming by. Greeno's probably gone, but thanks for stopping by, Greeno, Carly, the mod, one of Greeno's mods. You guys are awesome channel, and thanks for last night calling me out on a live and putting my channel up. I definitely got more subscribers, and oh, there he goes. True Crime Investigates not gone. You hopped on after your $1 million YouTube video, huh? I'm gonna go back and watch that. I want to know how to make $1 million as a YouTuber. I'm not quite sure it actually says that, but now I'm just making rumors up. But I'm gonna go back and watch it. And thank you all, Misty, Miracle Heart, Juror 13. You're gonna come back and watch the clips with me and be bored out of our minds. Probably not. We'll just talk about it. Oh, Carly's your girlfriend. I didn't know that. There you go. So when she watches, you watch. Oh, she's making you watch? Damn it. I did not know that. I just learned something new tonight. Very nice. I like her. Good choice, Greeno. All right, you guys have a good night now. I got to go eat and hang out with the family. I don't think they want to hang out with me anymore. So everyone have a good night. Thank you. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. And Greeno, I'm going to watch your video now in a little bit. Have a good night.